He attempts to step into the novice zone like any other player, but the system suddenly recoils in horror. Crimson error windows flood his vision. The interface screams that his growth is illegitimate, a violation of natural law. Then, the ultimate punishment begins, a forced reset. He shrieks in pure despair as 2 decades of blood, sweat, and hellish grinding evaporate in a heartbeat. When the digital chaos finally subsides, he trembles and opens his status window. But wait, his attributes? They are monstrous. 99 points across the board. Absolute max stats. With only his luck remaining average, the system only stripped his rank. He is technically level 1. Sure, his ultimate skills are sealed, and legendary gear is locked away. But does he care? Not a chance. With base stats this broken, regaining his power will be a walk in the park. This isn't a loss, it is a victory lap. He charts a course for the novice zone, Ercus. But you must be asking, how did a rookie achieve godlike power before even starting the tutorial? Rewind the clock 20 years. Back when our protagonist was nothing but an innocent child, he was wandering the adventurer's academy grounds when a deranged elder snatched him up. No questions asked, just a straight-up abduction. The old maniac saw latent genius in the boy's eyes. Obsessed with creating the ultimate warrior, he turned the child into his personal experiment. Mercy was a foreign concept. There were no breaks. Only soul-crushing, bone-breaking discipline, day after endless day. He did push-ups with the master mediating on his spine. It was non-stop physical torture mixed with lectures on the philosophy of strength. During one of these hellish sessions, young Han dared to speak up. He mentioned that the world's strongest hero was merely level 89. The old man scoffed, calling such a rank utter garbage. To him, anything less than level 99 was trash. And for questioning the master, Han earned a fist to the skull and double the workout. 10 years bled into 20. Han grew from a boy into a weapon, forged in the fires of that living hell. He wondered why he didn't just delete his character to escape. But finally, the end arrived. The master spoke his final words. The legacy was complete. The old monster could die without regret. Han faked a tearful farewell, purely hoping to trigger a hidden inheritance quest. It worked. As the N.P.C. breathed his last, he handed over a coordinate linked to Han's destiny. With a final explosion of terrifying aura, the master passed on. Han was finally free. The 20-year nightmare was over. Back in the present, Han steps through the gates of the starting zone. Freshly reset to level 1, he walks into Ercus. The weight of lost time hits him like a truck. 2 decades gone. His gaze sweeps the plaza, the same cobblestones he walked as a child. Merchants shout, displaying their goods. Players relax, eating and laughing. The vibrant energy washes over him. A wave of bitter, sweet nostalgia. He realizes how much life he missed. But being back, it feels intoxicating. He won't waste another second. He spins around, marching straight for the hunting grounds via the west gate. But his path is barred. A sentry blocks the way, demanding his rank. Han answers honestly, I am level 1. The guard blinks. A 26-year-old rookie? The man is clearly stunned by this late bloomer. The soldier points toward the safer east gate. He warns that the west side is a death trap for beginners. It is suicide for a level 1, the guard insists. Han asks if it is restricted, but the guard shakes his head. It is not illegal, just stupid. At level 1, he wouldn't survive 5 seconds out there. Even a fanged rabbit will gut you, the guard pleads. Han just flashes a confident wolfish grin. He knows he is untouchable. He pushes past, leaving the guard to sigh in resignation at another fool rushing to his death. The soldier figures the idiot relies on respawning. Still, dying is painful. What a reckless waste of time. Suddenly, a system window chimes. A quest appears. Han realizes the guard's concern is genuine, but the challenge is accepted. Time for a show. He waves goodbye just as a fanged rabbit rockets out of the bushes, fangs bared. Dodge, the guard screams, lunging forward. But Han doesn't flinch. Boom! One casual punch obliterates the beast into pixels. The guard freezes mid-step, his brain short-circuiting. What the hell was that? Didn't this guy say he was a novice? Han nods, confirming his status. He knows the N.P.C. can scan his stats. So why the confusion? The guard stammers. The scanner says, level 1, but his eyes saw a high ranker's power. It defies logic. He demands to know what cheat code Han is using. Han just smirks, enjoying the chaos. He will keep his god stats a secret for now. Suddenly, the ground shakes. An enraged boar tears through the undergrowth, charging straight for them. The guard's face turns pale as a sheet. Run! The soldier roars. But Han stands like a statue, that arrogant smirk never leaving his lips. That beast is a rookie killer, but Han couldn't care less. He steps in, driving his fist right into the monster's skull. The beast collapses in a heartbeat, The guard stares, paralyzed in disbelief, watching a level up happen instantly. His brain short-circuits, refusing to accept that a total rookie could pull off such a feat. He whispers, "That guy is a monster." The outcome was never in doubt. Han casually snatches the 30,000 gold, a paltry reward for such a laughable quest. Satisfaction swells within him. A glance at his status window reveals the truth, 99 across every single attribute. The small fry are beneath him now. He sets his sights on the high-level hunting grounds, a confident chuckle escaping his lips. For the first time in 20 hellish years, the chains of his miserable past have finally shattered. His blood, sweat, and tears are finally bearing fruit. Surely, only a flower-paved road lies ahead, or so he hoped. But fate is a cruel mistress. Days later, chaos erupts. His eyes narrow into slits of icy suspicion. What kind of twisted joke is this? A crimson system alert screams in his vision. Murder committed. The chaos system awakens, branding him with the scarlet mark of the killer for all the world to see. It started small, but random accidents spiraled into a vortex of catastrophic misunderstandings. Now, peaceful NPCs emerge from the shadows like demons, attacking him on sight, convinced he is a villain. A massive bounty hangs over his head. Then, the realization strikes like lightning. It is his cursed luck stat, -99. With fortune that abysmal, the world itself conspires against him. Every NPC is absolutely convinced of his guilt. An ambush from behind. Instinct takes over before thought. He counters instantly, ending the assailant's life in a heartbeat. He isn't a butcher by choice. He is fighting for his very existence. But of all the cruel twists of fate, this is the worst possible timeline. The system plunges him into the max chaotic state, shackling him with debilitating penalties. The situation is hopeless. And now, the NPCs are the least of his worries. The players have joined the hunt. They scream his name like a curse. Get Rock, the infamous serial killer. He sprints through the alleyways, desperation fueling his steps. He has no idea why he bears that title. But for them, killing a chaotic user is a golden ticket. It grants instant hero status. Now, every glory-seeking wannabe is hell-bent on claiming his head. Dead end. The mob surrounds him, sneering that his run is over. There is nowhere left to hide. They demand his surrender. But submission? Never. He turns, his gaze colder than the deepest winter. No warning. No mercy. A cataclysmic blast erupts, vaporizing the entire mob in a fraction of a second. Guilt is a luxury he cannot afford. In this world, it is kill or be killed. He vanishes into the shadows. Ironically, those fools became the XP fodder he needed. 2 weeks later, deep in the jungle, he reviews the curse. The max chaotic state demands a full year of exile before the penalty lifts. Fine. If the world wants a villain, he will be the most comfortable villain in history. He chooses to live like a king in the shadows. Becoming a hero? He tosses that foolish dream into the abyss. With level 99 stats, he needs no one's approval. Fear is a thing of the past. Yet, a bitter thought creeps in. Isn't this comedic? 20 years of blood-soaked training, and this is his reward? The system mocks him with this farce. Just as the light at the end of the tunnel appeared, fate hurled him back into the darkness without a word of warning. He knows the culprit, Zeus. That bastard god is pulling the strings, orchestrating some twisted entertainment, a special scenario just for him. The next morning brings a sight so ridiculous, he almost bursts into laughter. An army of men kneels in the dirt before him. His mind reels, what new insanity is this? An elder weeps openly. Through tears of joy, the old man declares, "To see the descendant of the absolute ruler, my life has meaning." He claims he can die without regrets. They hail him as the Sky Devil's absolute ruler. Han freezes, dumbfounded. Is this a prank? But reality shatters as a golden notification materializes. An SSS class quest. The system has spoken. He is officially the Sky Devil's ruler. And SSS class, that is the pinnacle of legend. In 2 centuries of Olympus history, such a quest has appeared only 3 times. With power that vast, the stakes are apocalyptic. An SSS class storyline always shakes the very foundations of the nation. He hesitates. Why him? Why now? As the NPCs bow like loyal subjects awaiting a king, it feels as though they have waited eons for his return. And then, he understands. He is trapped in a grand design, a tapestry of fate that Zeus has been weaving around him for 20 long years. Han opens the ancient texts, uncovering the chronicles of an era 7,000 years past the Age of Chaos. Harmony had returned, yet the world fractured into 3 warring superpowers, with the most notorious being the Empire of Sentinia. It was ruled by the tyrant Grazia Mentas, a man with 14 wives. The 7th wife bore a son, who fathered another in a grand lineage. The history of this bloodline repeated endlessly, but seeing the ancient elders bowing before him, Han realized he couldn't just ignore the lore. It would be a slap in the face to their honor, so he continued reading, diving deeper into the legend of the past. He learned of the supreme ruler of that era, Shir Terra, a monster who consumed the blood of the devil to ascend the throne. His cruelty knew no bounds, and his power was absolute. Legends say even the greatest heroes trembled at the mere mention of his name. Yet, he wasn't defeated by a sword, but by a honey trap. A beauty led to his downfall, forcing him to retreat into a dark cave. There, he began the long cultivation to regain his strength, and Han suddenly realized the shocking truth. His master was Shir Terra's direct descendant. This was the legacy of the Sky Devil. The system flashed before his eyes, guiding him through the necessary steps of his destiny. Before he could complete the quest, Han assumed he needed to travel to the capital, but he hesitated and turned to the kneeling old men. He asked if they were truly the elders of the Sky Devil sect. Their leader slammed his forehead into the ground, weeping with gratitude that their lord recognized them. But in reality, our boy just wanted to speedrun this ridiculous quest. He had absolutely zero clue who these fanatics actually were. With a straight face, Han lied through his teeth, claiming his teacher ordained him to lead the Sky Devil elders into a new age. He proclaimed he would revive the former glory of the Sky Devil across the continent, sending the elders into a frenzy of tears and joyous bowing. Han realized he had hit the jackpot. These were the 7 elders, and their loyalty to him was now absolute. He commanded one to take point. The elder rose with terrifying grace, informing Han that he had already annihilated the insect like trash lurking in the shadows. Those assassins had tried to ambush him, but the moment Han officially formed the party with these monsters, a miracle occurred. Golden light erupted from his body, and he instantly shot up to level 9. Han shuddered, wondering what kind of beasts these elders had slaughtered. Their power leveling was insane. Han turned to the leader and asked for his name. The old man replied with reverence that he was Luxo. He was the first elder, the strongest of them all. Han nodded solemnly, telling him they had a mission, and Luxo bowed, awaiting the command. Han explained that a special seal currently restricted his power. Despite remembering his master's ultimate techniques, his body could not yet perform them. His mind was sharp, but his vessel was weak. The elder nodded sagely, completely buying the excuse that his lord was simply in a weakened state. But Han projected an aura of supreme confidence, telling them to place their faith in him, for he was their absolute ruler. He swore to lead the elders out of the darkness and into the sun-drenched lands of glory, and the old men began to prepare for war. They chanted, "Lord," with fanatical devotion, and the system chimed. Loyalty of the Sky Devil sect has increased. Han grinned. It was showtime. Deciding to log out and head toward the destination in-game later, Han returned to reality and dragged himself to the kitchen for coffee. There, he bumped into his sister, Han Se-ah, who looked exhausted from her own gaming session. She bragged that her alliance crushed a quest, but warned him about a serial player killer named Get Rock lurking on the outskirts of Centinea. Han put on his best poker face, pretending ignorance, even though Times was the very killer she was describing. His sister continued, describing a maniac wielding dual pistols around level 40, rumored to be strong enough to wipe out a 7-man party solo. She added that the bounty for catching this lunatic was 3 million gold. Han paused, finding the number suspiciously low. He asked why she would only get 3 million when the official bounty was 100 million. She flushed red with embarrassment. She stammered that her union took a cut for perks, but Han scoffed internally. It was total exploitation while she did the dirty work. His sister laughed it off, promising that if she ever snagged that reward, she'd treat him to a premium barbecue feast. Han thanked her for the intel and logged back in. Returning to the world of Olympus, Luxo instantly warned him of a tale. Han decided to identify the stalker first. He tried messaging his sister, but since she was on a different continent, the whisper failed. That ruled her out. Suddenly, a murderous presence crept up from the shadows behind Han's back. It was the Times Real Times Get Rock, the criminal shouted, calling Han a filthy impersonator bastard for stealing his identity. At first, Han was confused, but seeing the signature dual pistols, he realized this was the genuine article, the notorious wanted criminal. The guy was foaming at the mouth, furious that Han was ruining his reputation, and swore to make him pay with his life. Our boy, however, was thrilled. Thanks to his sister's rant, he knew everything about this guy. Sure, the enemy was level 40, a massive threat to a low-level player. Han wondered what would happen if a level 9 fought a level 40. A cruel, villainous smile spread across his face. He reminded himself that he wasn't fighting fair. He summoned Luxo, the first elder, who materialized from thin air like a ghost. The criminal froze, completely blindsided by the old man's undetectable presence. Han pointed a finger and gave the order. Kill. Get Rock, blinded by arrogance, scoffed that he'd kill them both. But Luxo moved faster than the speed of sound, vanishing before the fool could blink. Before the sound of the blade even registered, the head kissed the dirt. Luxo sheathed his weapon with terrifying calm, while Han stood there, his jaw practically unhinged. Han recalled the intel. Get Rock was a level 40 monster. The question burned in his mind. Was the criminal weak, or was Luxo just a god of war? Or maybe his own judgment was flawed. A flush of embarrassment crept up his neck. He hadn't even seen the blade move. It was a level of mastery completely beyond his perception. He comforted himself. With his eyesight skills active, surely he could have traced the mana flow. The old master interrupted his thoughts, casually tossing him the severed head like a grocery item. Ding! The system flooded his vision. Experience points rained down, accompanied by a staggering 100 million gold reward for ending the reign of the infamous serial killer. He offered his gratitude to the elder, but inside, a storm of reflection brewed. How much had his reality shifted in such a short time? Before, his max chaotic stat was a curse that barred him from even the simplest jobs. Now, Han adjusted his expression, putting on an Oscar-worthy performance for his NPC followers. He would dance to the system's tune, crush every quest, and pave his road with blood and sweat until he sat upon the throne of a monarch. 2 weeks flew by. Han strolled through the jungle like a tourist, while his squad of terrifying elders annihilated every beast that dared to breathe in his direction. Level 13 achieved. A speed that would make normal players vomit blood from envy, considering it took most people years to reach such heights. But his eyes were fixed on the prize, the heaven-breaking ghost art. The level requirement was 40. That was the magic number. Level 40 was when his legend would truly begin. With his army of elders, it felt less like adventuring and more like a high-efficiency farming corporation. Infinite leveling powered by Sky Devil lackeys. He glanced down at the gruesome bag in his hand. Now, what to do with this expensive souvenir? Back in reality, Han scoured the forums. Best place to liquidate high-tier loot? The internet consensus was clear. Sell it within the game or risk getting scammed. In the world of Olympus, that was standard advice. But for Han, it was a cruel joke. He was banned from every public institution. The curse of the max-level chaotic meant he was an outcast. To make matters worse, the in-game gold couldn't be directly traded for real-world cash without a middleman. Risking his personal data on the black market was out of the question. Suddenly, a bright smile illuminated the room. Enter the little sister. Perfect timing. She looked at him with that knowing gaze. Assuming her broke older brother was about to beg for pocket change again, he waved his hands, flustered. That wasn't it. He posed a hypothetical. What would you do if I handed you the severed head of a wanted criminal? Confusion morphed into hysterics. She laughed in his face, wondering why on earth he would have such a thing, let alone give it to her. Sure, Appa. If you have that bounty, go buy a hamburger. And make sure to get one for me too, she teased, clearly not buying a word of it. His expression turned stone cold. 50-50 split. Sia blinked, realizing he wasn't joking. She reminded him that Getrock was a level 40 nightmare. Even if her brother rose from the dead, he couldn't kill that monster. Plus, wasn't his character stuck in the starter zone due to his trash build? I escaped the training zone days ago, Han stated flatly. And the criminal? Already bagged and tagged. Sia's jaw dropped. The math didn't add up. A level 40 boss versus her brother? How was that even physically possible? Han scratched his head, laughing awkwardly. Well, I hit him once and he just died. My estimated level is probably around 99. Check your messages from 10 years ago, he urged. A memory surfaced in Sia's mind, a pixelated screenshot from her brother. Back then, he claimed to be level 99. She had dismissed it as the desperate delusion of a gamer losing his mind from grinding too hard. She gave a sheepish smile. I thought it was Photoshop. Han waved off her apology. Her belief didn't matter. The gold did. Just come to the Centennia Mountains if you want the loot, he commanded, firing off the coordinates. Don't be late. Logging into Olympus, Sia grumbled. Why did she have to trek all the way to this god-forsaken forest in the middle of nowhere? When she asked for the reason, Han dropped the bomb. I'm a max chaotic. The blood drained from Sia's face instantly. At the west gate, she tried to pass through. I have business in the mountains, she told the guards with forced confidence. The guards blocked her path, warning her that she'd be monster chow in seconds. Sia just laughed nervously, unable to explain the situation. Ignoring their dire warnings, she waved goodbye and stepped into the danger zone, leaving the bewildered guards behind. 3 hours of trekking through the dense undergrowth. The silence was deafening. Then she remembered her brother's promise. I'll clear the path, he had said. She scanned the surroundings, her eyes widening as realization dawned. It wasn't just monsters. Every living thing had been erased. The forest was a graveyard. Suddenly, Han materialized right behind her. Sia shrieked, jumping out of her skin. Are you a ghost? She yelled, clutching her chest. He hadn't made a single sound. Then, she felt it. a suffocating, dense aura radiating from him like a dark sun. He wasn't lying. This was the pressure of a max-level entity. Did you kill NPCs to get this way? She stammered. Han ignored the moral interrogation completely. He shoved the bloody bag into her arms. Here, 100 million gold coins, as promised. Sia stared at the item, wondering if this was a fever dream. The weight in her hands was real. The bounty notification was real. 100 million. Her skepticism shattered instantly. You're amazing, she breathed, eyes sparkling. Han cut her off, checking his imaginary watch. Save the praise. Go cash it in. And if you run off with the money at the Adventurers Guild, he added with a dark grin, I'll hunt you down myself. The receptionist's jaw dropped as the sister slammed the severed head onto the counter. Confirming target. It is Rogue. A golden notification flashed in the air. Quest cleared. The sister stood frozen, unable to process the sheer victory of the moment. 100 million gold. The bounty hit their inventory, and her mind instantly drifted to a paradise of unlimited, triple-stacked premium hamburgers. She could feast like a queen forever, but then, her gaze shifted to her brother. She knew the 20 years of hellish grinding he had endured for this single payout. Back in the safety of the jungle zone, she opened the trade window. Han blinked in surprise. She wasn't giving him half. She was transferring 99 million gold. Is this a mistake? Han wondered, a warm smile spreading across his face. Was his usually greedy sister actually showing some heart? He knew he deserved it after 2 decades of blood and sweat, but for her to keep only 1 million? That was a miracle. Just some pocket money for me, she chirped. Han felt a surge of gratitude. He would have happily given her the world, yet she settled for crumbs. But before he could refuse, she bolted. I only took the morning off, she yelled, leaving a cartoonish dust cloud behind her. Back to the grind. Han stood there, dumbfounded. Burgers tonight. My treat, she shouted from the distance. He could only shake his head. Get home safe, he whispered, watching her log-out effect fade. He checked his balance, 99 million gold. After the brutal exchange rates and taxes, that was 80 million won. Real, cold, hard cash. And this was just his first try. This wasn't just a game. It was his destiny. Who cared if his alignment was max chaotic? The legendary Triple S-class storyline hadn't even begun. He was already swimming in wealth. With 80 million won as collateral, he wasn't just a player anymore. He was a tycoon in the making. But now, the real work began. The main quest awaited, and he needed to hit level 40 yesterday. He had no idea what rewards lay ahead, but he would claim them all. Speed was the only stat that mattered now. He had to evolve. Every second wasted was power lost. That evening, back in the real world, Han met his sister. Since his max chaotic status made him a criminal in-game, he couldn't enter the city himself. I need you to be my mule, he asked. Sia groaned, slumped from her day job. No way, I'm dead on my feet. But Han knew her price. 300,000 won. Monthly allowance, he bribed. Her eyes snapped open. Make it 500,000. Deal. Sia dove back into her capsule instantly. Hours later, Han equipped his new loot. Exhaustion weighed on his bones, but the thrill of high-tier gear surged through his veins. These weren't just clothes, they were experience-boosting artifacts essential for the speedrun, but the cost was soul-crushing. 70 million won vaporized. For the first time in his life, he had earned a fortune with his own hands, only to burn it all on gear. Sia didn't care about his inner turmoil. She was in full goblin mode. I ran errands all night. Pay up, brother. 3 million gold for the first trip, 300,000 for every stop after. She was ruthless, a true merchant of chaos. Han sighed, but paid the troll toll. He had to be perfect. Whatever nightmare scenario the system threw at him, he would crush it. His path to becoming a monarch was paved with gold and blood. He summoned the elders. It was time to advance. Focus locked. Level up. The next day, Han arrived at the treacherous Zeph Mountains, but he wasn't the only predator in the area. From the shadows, armored figures watched. Target acquired. One whispered, check his status. Max chaotic. A wicked grin spread across the party member's face. Jackpot. We need that infamy. To them, Han looked like nothing more than prey. Look at that trash gear, they sneered. He must have died a dozen times getting here. He's fresh meat. He hasn't even spotted us. Low perception stat, the leader scoffed. Battle positions. We're bagging ourselves a chaotic player today. As he drifted through the forest, Han stopped. The air had gone dead quiet. The monsters were gone. Asterisk ping. Asterisk. A crimson warning window materialized. System alert. External force attempting to bind player movement. Bind me? Han smirked. He felt absolutely nothing. Meanwhile, in the bushes, the ambush squad was losing their minds. Why isn't he paralyzed? The mage hissed. sweat beading on his forehead. He shrugged off the trap like it was a breeze. "Is he a hidden boss?" one whispered. "No way. Look at those rags. He looks like a beggar." They convinced themselves he was just lucky trash. The archer drew his bowstring taut, aiming for the kill shot. "Quit yapping and end him," the boss roared, his patience snapping. "Stop playing with your food. Lock down his escape routes. Don't let him blink." The leader and his vice captain drew their weapons, eyes bloodshot with greed. They lunged from the shadows, confident in the slaughter. But right as they closed the distance, Han turned. His eyes were abyssal pools of cold indifference. A gaze that said, "Run now, and you might keep your lives." "He's bluffing!" the idiots screamed. The leader channeled every ounce of mana into a devastating charge. "What's your level, kid?" Han asked casually. Asterisk clang. Asterisk. The massive warhammer struck Han's shoulder and bounced off like a rubber toy. The vice captain followed up, slashing with a greatsword. Asterisk ting. Asterisk useless. Not even a scratch on his cloth armor. Arrows rained down. Spells exploded. But as the smoke cleared, the PKers froze in absolute terror. His health bar hadn't moved a single pixel. With a sharp gaze, he assessed the threat. The swordsman was likely level 40, a warrior in his physical prime. The archer, however, watched with suspicion, baffled by his opponent's lack of armor and silence. Suspecting a trap or a silent incantation, the ranged fighter signaled his team with urgent precision. While the enemy leader trembled in his boots, anticipating a hidden ambush, our protagonist simply stood there. Boredom washed over him. Their intimidation felt like the buzzing of flies, and his patience had finally run dry. With his magical skills sealed, he shifted his weight, preparing to unleash pure physical devastation. He dropped into a fundamental martial arts stance, fists raised. Naturally, the archer misread the situation completely. Expecting a catastrophic spell, the archer screamed for his team to retreat and maintain distance. But before an arrow could even be knocked, a heavy fist had already connected with the leader's jaw. The man was unconscious before he hit the ground. Instantly, the system alerted him to a spike in his infamy score. Undeterred, the hammer-wielding tank roared and charged, only to find his strength was nothing compared to a monster. As his criminal rating climbed, he looked down in mild surprise. The tank had folded after a single, casual strike. The remaining party members froze, statues of terror, as the horrifying truth finally dawned on them. They hadn't even cast a single buff. Panic erupted as their manager shrieked the only command that mattered. "Run." This was a massacre, not a battle. The archer scrambled backward, desperate to put distance between them. They had kicked a sleeping dragon. This was no ordinary mage. This was a predator in human skin. But escape was an illusion. In a blink, the protagonist materialized behind him, silent as a phantom. The archer's mind shattered, unable to comprehend the speed. Then, he saw it. A smile of pure, predatory delight. With eyes full of killing intent, he mocked them. They had started this war, yet now they fled like frightened rabbits? A cold realization struck the archer's heart. He had held back his movement skills just to toy with them. Such impossible movement speed could only belong to one specific, terrifying class of warrior, a high-ranking battle mage, perhaps level 60 or higher. It was a complete and total domination. By the time the dust settled, he had ascended to level 16, standing tall over their broken forms. He chose to show mercy, sparing their wretched lives. Immediately, the system rewarded his benevolence with loyalty points. He even unlocked a passive skill, charisma. He had no idea what it did, but it sounded useful, so he accepted it with a shrug. Suddenly, Luxo appeared from the shadows, insisting there was something urgent the young master needed to witness. Following the guide, 7 agonizing days passed before he finally stumbled into the hidden sanctuary of the Sky Devil. He looked less like a hero and more like a starving ghoul, cursing the very ground he walked on. Why was this base in the middle of nowhere? He recalled the moment he was roped into this mess, just minding his own business. An elder had opened a portal and dumped him into a scorching desert, muttering something vague about an adventurer's pilgrimage. He had been excited to farm points just by walking, but this was ridiculous. After a week of hellish marching, the elder finally pointed toward the horizon, announcing their destination. Hope flared in his chest finally. Food. But as the settlement came into view, that hope was crushed. It was a ruin. His soul withered as he stared at the dilapidated shacks and crumbling walls. Was this pile of rubble really the legendary hideout? The sheer disappointment made his head spin. Had his master destroyed this place? The villagers looked like skeletons wrapped in skin, starving and broken. Yet, seeing him, they fell prostrate in the dust, hailing him as their absolute ruler and savior. Predictably, a system quest triggered. Restore the village. It was a mission to save a place already dead. He forced a weak, lordly smile as they bowed, though he felt ready to faint from sheer hunger. An ancient figure approached Prophet Karl, a man who had survived for 163 years. With tears of relief, the old man explained the history. He had raised 12 elders in this very sanctuary. They had hidden from the empire for generations, searching the world for the true bloodline of the absolute ruler. But the land was barren. No monsters, no animals, no crops. It was a tactical nightmare. Why not just import supplies, he asked. The old man shook his head. It was impossible. No one could leave the barrier to trade. He realized with a heavy sigh that his first task was set. To prevent the entire clan from perishing of starvation, he summoned Luxo immediately. He needed to know their limits. The elder estimated they had 2 weeks max before death claimed them. Climbing the hill to overlook his people, he addressed the desperate crowd with a booming voice. He admitted he had been secluded in cultivation, unable to tend to their suffering until now. But the era of neglect ended today. He swore a blood oath to sacrifice everything for their survival. 2 weeks was all he needed. As he begged them to endure, the system interface flashed gold. Morale was skyrocketing. Their loyalty stats hit the ceiling. He turned to Luxo, commanding the elder to join him for a high-speed expedition. Leaving the other elders to guard the sect, Luxo bowed in absolute obedience, and they vanished into the wild. His orders were absolute. Annihilate every monster and harvest every single mana stone. This quest would be a walk in the park. A week into their mountain seclusion, Luxo stared in awe at their progress. The young lord had prepared perfectly. Han shrugged off the praise, having targeted the low-level mobs first for efficiency. With time running out, he rested on a boulder, gazing at bags bursting with spoils of war. Flashback to a few days prior, Han had sent a spiritual transmission to his sister, demanding a spatial pocket immediately. Her mission was to secure porridge for 800 souls and haul it to the mountains. She nearly choked on her tea reading the request. 800 people? She couldn't fathom what kind of army he was feeding, but the logistics were set. When she arrived at the rendezvous point, her mind was still reeling with confusion. Just what was her brother plotting? Han casually tossed her a rare mana stone as payment, leaving her paralyzed with shock. Panic set in. She suspected he was being bankrolled by a shadowy syndicate or a criminal organization. He shut down her delusions instantly. No sponsors, just pure skill. He told her to sell the loot and keep a 10% commission. The blood drained from her face, but she chalked it up to a miracle, refusing to believe her brother was this capable. With the funds from the stone, he ordered her to purchase 3 warp scrolls, seemingly burning money without a care. His strategy was genius. Connect the warp points from the mountain directly to the Sky Devil's stronghold, connecting the village instantly. A journey that took a week of tracking would now happen in the blink of an eye. Han called it a flawless victory. Though watching his gold vanish on 3 scrolls, they made his heart bleed just a little. Meanwhile, back at the sect, the 12th elder, Erda, was boiling with rage, convinced Han had abandoned them, letting them starve while he fled, and now this brat expects them to bow just because of his bloodline? Sure, the first elder was a loyal dog, ready to die for the boy. But Erda wasn't blind. The council was divided. His resolve hardened into killing intent. If Han dared to mock the Sky Devil village, or uttered a single lie, Erda would execute him on the spot. Suddenly, Han materialized. The villagers erupted into hysteria, chanting for the return of the absolute ruler. He brought a mountain of supplies. Erda stepped out, ready to scold him, until his eyes bulged at the sight of the grain. Han smirked, unveiling his treasure. He wanted to give them a feast, but greasy food would kill starving men instantly. Porridge was the only safe option. Erda stood frozen, unable to comprehend the logistics. How did he acquire this fortune? The villagers didn't care. They chanted "Great Leader" in a frenzy. Their cheers shook the heavens. His reputation stat was breaking the limit, and the loyalty was intoxicating. To them, he was omnipotent. Han flashed a wicked grin internally, agreeing that he was, indeed, their savior. He commanded an elder to assist Luxo, organizing the distribution, while he retreated to his quarters. Grain was just the beginning. Clothing and shelter were next, but survival took precedence. A sudden knock disturbed his planning. Han granted permission to enter. It was Erda. The proud elder slammed his knees to the floor, begging for forgiveness for his treasonous thoughts. Han blinked. He submitted faster than calculated? The old man wept like a child, cursing his own blindness. He expected a long conquest for their loyalty, but they were already in the palm of his hand. A sinister smile crept onto his face. Everything was proceeding perfectly. He told Erda to rise, his voice dripping with benevolence. He admitted his current power had limits, so doubting him was only natural. In Erda's shoes, he would have done the same. But the time for doubt was over. "Place your faith in me," he declared, "and I will repay that loyalty 1,000 times over." He flashes a dazzling, carefree smile, but it only breaks Era's heart further, sending her into a spiral of tearful apologies. However, That impassioned speech earns a silent nod of approval from the 12th elder, officially acknowledging his worth. Yet, in his heart, the elder dismisses him as a complete fool. Meanwhile, Han ascends to level 19, raking in a mountain of stat points. With power surging through his veins, he plots his next move. His mind drifts to Luke's parting words. He must remain a shadow, lest the Empire's prying eyes turn toward him. The other elders had echoed this grave warning. But if a partner is required to navigate the darkness, Earth is the obvious choice. His mastery of stealth is second to none. High in the mountain peaks, a beast blocks his path. Han pauses, his eyes narrowing at the unfamiliar creature. A giant bear? Erda draws his blade, sensing danger, but Han raises a hand to halt him. He recalls the data. These beasts are level 40 monsters, normally requiring a full raid squad to even scratch. But Han is a one-man army. Why bring a squad when he can crush it with his bare hands? The beast roars and charges. Han launches into the sky, descending like a meteor with a single, cataclysmic punch. The impact flattens the monster instantly. Easy money. He pockets 20,000 gold, though the experience gain is pitiful. Erda watches in paralyzed silence, his loyalty deepening as he gazes upon the obliterated carcass. Han frowns. Was the beast weak, or has he simply transcended the limits of common sense? No matter. He commands Erda to move out. Their next target is a Montium dungeon. Days later, they stand before the ominous gates. Erda's senses flare, detecting a multitude of souls within. It makes sense. This low-tier dungeon lies near the village of beginning, a stone's throw from Urka's. The difficulty is manageable, making it a hotspot for academy students and union instructors hungry for stat points, a perfect grinding spot. A smirk plays on his lips as he recalls the one-hit obliteration of the bear. It begs the question, how do these so-called elite instructors measure up against his overwhelming might? He steps into the safe zone, ordering Erda to engage Shadow Walk and tail him unseen. Nearby, a trembling novice confesses to his friend that he is terrified, despite this being his second run. He prays for a clear run, but his blood runs cold. He spots Han, the infamous chaotic variable. Terror grips them. They bolt toward their instructor, desperate for protection from this walking nightmare. A smug figure struts forward, eyeing Han with the confidence of an ignorant fool. Earlier, Han had realized a cruel truth. When he lands the killing blow, the loot drops are non-existent. He summons his status window. There it is. Luck stat. -99. The system is mocking him. His drop rate is abysmal. If only someone else could take the last hit. His brooding is interrupted. The instructor looms over him, barking demands for his identity. Han recalls his sister's warning. Great union instructors are dangerous, usually exceeding level 40. She was right. These arrogant peacocks exist solely to cause trouble. The man presses him again, but Han meets his gaze with cold indifference, answering with a question of his own. Who are you to command me? The instructor scoffs, claiming to have crushed countless punks with that attitude. He offers a chance to flee. Scanning Han's status, he laughs. Level 19? With such garbage equipment, he brands Han as trash, a vulture who preys on weak students. A killer stealing loot? Han is baffled by the accusation, but decides to avoid a pointless fight. For the sake of the children, he speaks calmly. Focus on your class. I am simply here to clear the dungeon. The instructor sneers, convinced of Han's malice. Suddenly, a system alert chimes in the air. Safe zone, dissolving. The instructor bellows for his students to take cover behind him. Realizing this fool is truly from the guild union, Han's irritation flares. He tells the man to get lost. He has no interest in fighting, but the instructor mistakes his mercy for weakness. Han sighs. He is a hunter, not some bottom-feeding criminal targeting children. He turns to leave, but steel sings through the air. The safe zone falls right as the instructor draws his blade. Die, you arrogant trash! The man moves for the kill. Han's patience finally snaps. He offered a final warning. It was ignored. The instructor lunges with lethal force, his blade slicing cleanly through the target. But he remained unmoved, standing like a mountain in a storm. The instructor gaped, convinced this was some twisted black magic trick. Han shot him a gaze cold enough to freeze hell, asking if that playful tickle was his best shot. Pure terror clawed at the instructor's heart. Realization struck like lightning. This was no rookie. He was standing before a predator wearing a sheep's skin. Panic hijacked his brain. He scrambled for backup, convinced this level 19 anomaly possessed a glitched hidden skill. Han sighed, reminding the fool that he came in peace, and that had been his final act of mercy. Patience evaporated. He unleashed a casual fist into the instructor's gut, painting sheer disbelief across the man's face. His brain could not process how a mere fist countered cold steel. Desperate fingers fumbled to signal for reinforcements, but too late. A blinding cataclysm of light erupted, swallowing the world in white. With one move, It was a total knockout. The trembling students huddled together, checking for a pulse. Han's gaze shifted toward them, sharpening into a warning. His eyes asked a silent question. Do you have a death wish too? Their heads shook violently in denial. A smirk tugged at his lips. Wise choice, his expression said. He told them to grind their quests and grow into warriors worth their salt. Moments later, he drifted into introspection. He wasn't a villain. He never intended to crush those fledglings. Lifting his gaze, he spotted the target, an imposing defensive fortress, bristling with armed skeleton warriors. This had to be the dungeon's heart. He recalled the guidebook's strategy notes regarding this stronghold. He needed to obliterate this obstacle to reach the boss stage. Since trash mobs dropped zero loot, speed was the only priority. He didn't spare a second glance at the bloodthirsty undead, brushing off their murderous intent like dust. He charged straight in. The system screamed red alerts, warning him of the monster's overwhelming rage. It predicted heavy damage. But Han? He simply could not bring himself to give a damn. He calculated 10 punches would do it. But with a single, casual tap, the entire fortress disintegrated. It folded like wet cardboard. Disappointment washed over him. Wasn't this stronghold supposed to be legendary? Still, efficiency was king. Without skipping a beat, he accepted the easy win. He marched forward to purge the area. Moments later, the backup instructors arrived, only to find a pile of smoking ruins. Considering the perpetrator was merely level 19, reality seemed to glitch before their eyes. Their brains short-circuited. They stood dumbstruck, unable to process how a newbie annihilated a fortress instantly. He hadn't even engaged the guards. They suspected a god-tier item. But then the system dropped a bombshell announcement. Dungeon cleared. The notification hung in the air, leaving the elite squad staring in paralyzed disbelief. Impossible, they whispered, minds shattered. Meanwhile, inside the dungeon, Han was busy complaining. Why was this place crawling with bones? For a standard level 19 scrub, this would be a death sentence. But Han was built different. He bulldozed through the hordes until the final stage loomed ahead. He ghosted the lunging skeletons, treating them like background noise as he casually accessed the terminal. Time to see if the boss room had any teeth. He launched himself forward like a cannonball. Impact. He prayed it wouldn't break too fast, but the final stage's barrier crumpled like tissue paper. It shattered instantly under his might. A frown creased his forehead. What kind of trash-tier defense was this? Sensing the annoyance of incoming instructors, he decided to speed-run the finale. The system tossed confetti and congratulations. Han just snorted in derision. Just another pathetic, low-level playground. Having cleared it on autopilot, he opened his status window to dump his points. Every point poured in until, ding, level 20 achieved. Now, the field of darkness awaited. He expected a chase, but the halls were silent. They must be camping the entrance like vultures. But stepping into the sunlight, his eyes widened. It wasn't a squad, it was an entire battalion of instructors. Way more than he calculated. Suddenly, a voice boomed across the clearing. Show yourself, commander of the enemy forces. Han blinked, looking around with a blank expression. He was literally the only guy standing there. Who the hell were they screaming at? He glanced at the elder beside him. Did I accidentally toggle stealth? The elder shook his head. The lead instructor stepped forward, voice grave. He claimed to understand Han's demands, pleading to avoid a bloodbath today. The man was trying to de-escalate with logic, but the sheer stupidity of the misunderstanding only fueled Han's irritation. The anticipation of a clash faded instantly. Seeing them tremble like this left a bitter taste in his mouth. If he unleashed his true power here, the students would become collateral damage, and slaughtering weaklings was beneath him. The instructor offered a truce, claiming he understood the gravity of the situation. He had no desire to throw his life away in a meaningless duel, and Han decided to play along. I never planned to draw my blade unless forced, he replied, cold-bloodedly, reminding them of his stance. He had already warned the previous fool not to court death, and walked past them without a second glance. His eyes were set on a greater prize. The field of darkness awaited, where he could hunt real prey. Zergal exhaled, the suffocating pressure finally lifting, while his partner remained frozen in silent gratitude. They had avoided a massacre. Zergal brushed it off, but he knew the terrifying truth. The last instructor who dared cross this man paid with his life, dragging innocent students to hell with him. Even with a cautious approach, Han had cleared the dungeon at a speed that defied logic. It was a deliberate show of force, a warning that he possessed powerful backing. Zergal knew they had to protect the children. Avoiding the tiger's path was the only way to survive. Meanwhile, another instructor watched his back trembling. Just what kind of monster is he? One fact was undeniable. Han was a max-level chaotic entity. Terrifying thoughts filled their minds. Could this be Rufendal himself? The legendary level 50 player? But a monster like that could easily use cheats to mask his true power level. Elsewhere, the real Rufendal was painting the ground red, his death nail tearing through players like paper. Scrub your necks clean before you die, he mocked, ruthlessly, extinguishing their lives and telling them to log out. If they valued their sanity, they would stay dead. He was a true chaotic, living only for the thrill of the loot. Watching their items drop was the sweetest nectar of all, but suddenly, a thought struck him. Rumors had been swirling about a hunter tracking him down, even though he had never met this person. Worse yet, someone was running wild, wearing his name like a mask. Some cheap copycat dares to impersonate me. Apparently this poser caused chaos in the Amantian dungeon. If this continued, he could be exiled from the Great Union. Angering the Great Union was practically a death sentence, so he made a choice. It was time to hunt down this punk and crush him before his reputation was ruined. Meanwhile, back at the Sky Devil village, the king returned. Han addressed the elders, telling them their destination was a realm of floating nightmares. He needed a specialist in long-range destruction among the elders present. Luxo understood immediately, but another elder stepped forward. My spells can reach the horizon, he boasted. Han smirked, deciding he would drag this confident elder into the abyss with him. The elder bowed with a sinister grin. Suddenly, Han's thoughts drifted to the real world. His sister's birthday was approaching. It was time to grind for a gift, and perhaps a new home for her. Upon arrival at the Field of Darkness, the hunting grounds were teeming with players. The system chimed. Warning of the impending monster wave. It begins, Han whispered, turning to his subordinate Zeta. Are you ready? But Zeta was no ordinary elder. He was a lunatic, unleashed. I obey only you, master, he shrieked. I will snap their bones, flay their skin, and burn the trash, blocking your path with hellfire. Anyone who defies you shall be torn limb from limb. Even Han was taken aback by the old man's bloodlust, thinking this villainous vibe was a bit too intense. Nearby players spotted the red marker of a max chaotic. Greed filled their eyes, killing him meant instant fame. Han ordered the elder to annihilate these fools. Capture the monsters, specifically the blue storms, while the mob focused on the chaotic. Unaware they were marching to their deaths, Han remained calm, knowing he could warp away at any second. Why do you think I brought you? Han asked coldly. Prove the worth of your magic right now. The crazed old man nodded, swearing eternal loyalty. He raised a withered hand to the heavens. May my master's future burn bright. Blinding purple light swallowed the sky, an omen of doom. Zeta summoned the god of evil, commanding it to march forward and obliterate everything in existence. Those foolish enough to stand in his master's path shrieked in absolute terror, fleeing for their very souls. With eyes cold as ice, he commanded the behemoth to crush them into dust, showing zero mercy. Han nodded at the elder's display, deciding it was high time he unleashed his own overwhelming power. But as he did, the killer's mark blackened, his sins weighing down upon him like heavy lead chains. While whispers of his tyranny swept across the continent, a system window materialized before his eyes. It declared him the saint of murder. Even Han felt a jolt of shock at the sheer weight of that title. When a max-level chaotic player crosses the line of notoriety, the system brands them as a true murderer. Facing anyone with the hero title in PvP meant disaster. Their attack and defense stats would plummet instantly. Death wasn't an option. The resurrection cooldown skyrocketed to 240 hours. Worse, item drop rates hit a guaranteed 100%. But Han, the supreme leader of the Sky Devil cult, he barely glanced at the notoriety counter rising. With a scoff, he brushed the warning aside like a fly. Everything would fall into place. His charisma stat soared, and the loyalty of the Sky Devils rose in perfect sync. Let the humans flail helplessly against the Elder. He would deal with that chaotic mess in due time. First, he had to clear the dungeon. As silence fell over the corpse-ridden battlefield, Zeta flashed a truly vicious grin. The job seemed done. But then, a presence in the distance spiked. He could feel them arriving. A red alert flashed. Chaos inbound. The bulls had entered the fray. Monsters stampeded toward him, but Han stood unmoved. He knew Zeta was ready to turn this into a slaughterhouse. The Elder looked ready to carve up a steakhouse worth of meat. Han gave the order. Exterminate every single one. Deciding to dirty his own hands, Han prayed that just one of these beasts could survive a single blow. But no, one punch obliterated the target instantly. At least the 18,000 gold coins were a nice consolation. Watching the wealth accumulate, he continued the brawl, while the Elder scrambled to collect the loot. They were a hurricane of destruction. From the shadows, two players watched the cracked duo in disbelief. They whispered that these fighters were insane. One called it farming, but his friends scoffed at the ignorance. That sword user is a monster. He has to be a close combat battle mage. They theorized about Zeta, totally clueless about his true skills. They insisted he was a mage, terrified by how he wiped their squad without moving an inch. He's at least level 50, his friend bet. Suddenly, Zeta launched himself toward the heavens, roaring glory to the Lord. He unleashed a purple cataclysm, vaporizing the entire monster pack in a single slash. Han thought it was overkill, but the sweet sound of the system ping told him he had leveled up again. He ordered Zeta to harvest the magic stones while his cooldowns reset. The loyal subordinate obeyed instantly. 7 blue stones secured. Han was hyped at their insane farming speed, but then the atmosphere shifted. The boss monster had spawned. Han decided to wrap this up and vanish like a ghost. As the spectators stared in horror, Han identified the beast, the Chaos Bull King, a towering minotaur with a hulking physique. It was his first time laying eyes on such a freak of nature. He commanded Zeta to sweep the trash mobs for loot, while he locked eyes with the king. It was definitely beefier than a standard field boss. His eyes glittered with greed. He prayed for a 20-stone drop. Deep down, he hoped the beast could tank one hit so Zeta could secure the XP with the final blow. But before he could strike, Zeta signaled urgently. Powerful signatures were closing in fast. There wasn't enough time to kill the boss. A strategic retreat was the only option. Pull out, he ordered, cursing his luck. The humiliation burned. He hated feeling this powerless. But he swore on his life to revive the Sky Devil's glory. Tears of frustration actually stung his eyes. Not for the glory, but for the lost blue stones. They vanished into the shadows, leaving the onlookers utterly confused. Safe in his room, he scoured the game's notice board for patch notes. Nothing. Why did an unreleased Black Chaos Bull appear? It had to be his cursed -99 luck stat acting up again. Was it a blessing or a death flag? He didn't know. He only regretted not punching that bull into oblivion. He missed out on a fortune in stones. Then, a forum post caught his eye. Hunting ground difficulties had suddenly spiked. The forums were exploding with panic. A level 97 ranker posted a horror story about the Manticore dungeon being a living hell. An army of Black Skull soldiers had spawned from thin air. The mobs were so savage, escape was impossible. Another player claimed a giant ambushed him, a monstrous black bear in the jungle zone. Players in the territory were losing their minds, wondering if the developers had secretly buffed the game's difficulty to impossible levels. Suddenly, he realized, every single location mentioned was a place he had just visited. A cold sweat ran down his back. Was he the cause of this server-wide chaos? Scrolling down, another post caught his eye. Someone spotted a new black beast in the dark desert. He knew instantly. It was the same monster he had encountered. The post also mentioned that the max-level chaotic player, the one who slaughtered the Chaos Cows earlier, he had fled the moment the Black Chaos Bull King appeared. But then, the high rankers swooped in like vultures. They slew the raid boss and claimed the spoils. 3 bundles of blue stones, 30 rare gems in every single stack. The comment section went wild, calling it God-tier loot. Reading this, the color drained from his face. He cursed the heavens and his own miserable fortune. Those vultures just banked 90 blue stones. Tears of pure greed streamed down his face like a waterfall. He tallied his own pathetic haul. 11 stones and 5 million gold coins. It was nothing. After calculating exchange fees, taxes, and his sister's cut, it would barely cover food expenses for 3 days. He was left with a measly 15 million gold, not even enough to buy her a decent gift. He stared at his status window in despair. He grumbled with burning frustration. With this much grinding, he should be driving a sports car to his luxury villa by now, but his true level was still trash. He was locked out of high-tier dungeons, and he couldn't even activate his best skills. The penalties were suffocating him. The reality was harsh and cold. He sighed, realizing there was only one path forward. He had to grind like a madman until his fingers bled. Meanwhile, in a corporate office, a subordinate finished his report on the mysterious power spike. A shadowy figure sat upon a throne-like chair. He asked about the Black Chaos Ball. The subordinate confirmed the rumors were true. The monster's combat power had broken the charts. The figure leaned back, intrigued. This was no ordinary mob spawn. He ordered the operation to continue as normal, but commanded them to double the manpower. To him, players were just disposable pawns. Replacing them was as easy as breathing. This cold-blooded tyrant was none other than UN, Director Young Wook-hyun. The spy nodded to leave, but the director raised a hand. There was one more loose end, the masked, chaotic player wreaking havoc in the desert. His eyes hardened like steel. It had to be that same bastard, the one who had been a thorn in their alliance's side for years. 3 weeks of brutal grinding later, the system chimed. His level had risen again. His face was a mask of determination. It's about damn time, he thought. He had finally hit level 29. Suddenly, the N.P.C. Luxo appeared. The old man worried that his master's body would shatter from the strain. 3 weeks of non-stop marching? It was suicide. But he was touched by the concern. He brushed it off with a smirk. Restrictions or not, weakness was a sin he refused to commit. He swore a solemn oath to his student. He would show them the true glory of this world. He promised Luxo they would survive to see the day, when all creation bowed before the sky devils. Resting was for the weak. He would run day and night until his legs gave out. Luxo didn't need to worry. Just support him from the shadows. The words pierced Luxo's heart. The old man bowed low, weeping with loyalty, swearing to serve until his dying breath. But inside the protagonist's mind, his true motivation was crystal clear. A luxury apartment, a sleek supercar, and his ultimate dream, owning an entire building. A sinister, capitalistic grin spread across his face. Suddenly, a ping echoed in his ears. A direct message from his sister. She asked if he had received the new global quest. Strange quests had been popping up all over the server. He frowned, his curiosity piqued. What kind of event was this? He scanned the details. It was connected to the legend of the seventh constellation. A holographic window materialized before him. Challenge of the 7 constellations. The objective? Annihilate a specific group of evil entities, and prove oneself worthy to become a constellation, a guardian of the continent's peace. But who was this group of evil? A bad feeling settled in his gut. Wait, is the system talking about me? He quickly opened the community interface to see the public reaction. The entire server was in meltdown mode. Everyone was buzzing about the new scenario. He read through the chaos. Even his sister was watching the drama unfold. What a total mess, she messaged. He couldn't agree more. Why were they always so angry? He didn't know much about this hidden class, but if it was tied to the Olympus main storyline, the power one could gain, it would be beyond human imagination. Sia asked the million-gold question. Are you going to challenge it? He scoffed at the idea. No NPC would ever give a quest to him. He was a max-level chaotic player, a walking villain. He asked if she would try for the glory. She hesitated. I don't think I have the time, she replied. She flushed with embarrassment, admitting that only high-ranking maniacs with way too much free time and foreign players would actually accept such a grinding task, never expecting he would analyze the difficulty of these hunting grounds so deeply. The intensity had ramped up significantly, and he realized the system was painting him and the Sky Devil cult as the absolute villains of this narrative. If his deduction was correct, then the legendary 7 constellations, those possessing the hidden classes, would descend upon him simultaneously, in the worst-case scenario, shattering his hopes for a peaceful retirement. But inaction meant death. He had to become an apex predator. He needed absolute strength, no matter the cost. He dove back into the world of Olympus, immediately informing the elders that he would walk the path alone this time. The 3 of them froze in shock before erupting into a chorus of wailing protests, asking why his heart had changed so suddenly. They screamed that it was suicide, begging him to reconsider, but he silenced them with a look, acknowledging their unwavering loyalty. However, intelligence suggested the Empire was already tracking their movements. Caution was no longer a choice, it was a necessity. He had to move as a lone wolf, the elders' eyes filled with tears, praying to the heavens for his safety. Internally, his mind was calculating at lightning speed, knowing the quest for the 7 constellations was already in motion. Using the elders as bait would only enrage the Empire further. He just hoped they would guard the village with their lives. Since the real battle hadn't even begun, he gazed at them fondly, thinking of them as his precious idiots. Now, he needed the acknowledgement of the remaining elders immediately. Getting recognized by Erda was a stroke of luck, but he still needed 4 more seals of approval. Somehow, he had solved the famine crisis and could finally address the shelter's issues, but his coffers were running dry, and his options were dwindling by the second. There was only one path left: grind like a madman until level 40, unlocking the legendary heaven-shattering ghost arts. Then he could follow his master's legacy map and clear the remaining quests, perhaps finding a miracle to save the village. He knew his cursed luck meant rare drops like blue stones were impossible, but grinding was the only variable he could control. He faced down a pack of black wild bears, a sinister grin spreading across his face. It was time for a massacre to secure his future. As the beasts charged, he obliterated them in a flash of violence, instantly triggering a system notification. The system announced a new skill, the unordinary powerful fist. He paused, wondering what kind of technique this was, hoping it would aid his hunt, but upon inspection, he realized the skill was actually a handicap, a technique that intentionally lowered his damage to spare the monster's life. Yet, instead of raging, he began cackling like a lunatic. This trash skill was actually a gold mine. He could weaken enemies and let others take the last hit. Perhaps even a pet could finish them off. Bypassing his terrible drop rates entirely, feeling like a genius, he turned to head home when a murderous presence crept up behind him. A voice dripped with venom, claiming to have finally hunted him down. Convinced he had cornered his prey, he spun around, déjà vu washing over him, as the mysterious stranger demanded answers. Asking if he knew the calamity he had caused, Standing before him was Lupin Dahl, the maximum chaotic player, a notorious criminal now being framed for crimes he didn't commit, screaming that no one believed a word he said. Lupin Dahl cursed the Great Union bastards, looking ready to slaughter him just to clear his own tarnished reputation. He stared at the newcomer blankly, having zero memory of this guy, despite the thick, nasty aura of evil swirling around him. Lupin Dahl stood there, dumbfounded, unable to tell if he was being mocked or if this guy was genuinely clueless, questioning if he even possessed a human conscience, hoping this ignorance was just a pathetic act. But the blank stare was real. He smirked, calling Lupin Dahl amusing, which instantly snapped the criminal's patience. Rage ignited in Lupin's eyes. He roared that he was the real Lupin Dahl, the very name he had been impersonating. He had come to drag him to hell and hand him over to the Great Union personally. He would make sure he understood the depth of his grave. Lupin Dahl wanted him on his knees, begging for mercy, but seeing that bored expression, he decided this imposter needed to pay in blood for stealing his identity. Assuming he was paralyzed by fear, Lupin Dahl hoped for a surrender so he could torture him a bit before sparing his miserable life. But he just shrugged, indifferent, and told the man to cut the drama and start the violence. Lupin Dahl called him a raving lunatic, sighing that he didn't want to crush another maximum chaotic user. But mercy was off the table. He decided to unleash his full power, charging in, hoping the fool wouldn't die from a single strike. Lupin Dahl wanted a proper beatdown, but as the blow connected with his chest, his health bar refused to drop even a single pixel. A pathetic 3% drop? He sighs, totally underwhelmed. Is this really the criminal legend everyone worships? A level 50 entity should be a god compared to the 40s crowd. Still, better safe than sorry. He activates a skill he only recently unlocked. Settling into a firm martial stance, he prepares to counter. Utilizing the skill, he forcibly slashes his own damage output by 90%. He can't risk accidentally vaporizing the guy in one shot. Meanwhile, Lupin Dahl is sweating bullets, thinking he's charging some world-ending ultimate. If his instincts are right, this is the same monster who one-shot the Great Union director. That skill must be catastrophic. It probably takes an eternity to charge and carries a massive recoil risk. As Lupin's mind races with terrified assumptions, the protagonist blurs forward. He closes the distance in a heartbeat. A hand clamps around Lupin's throat. He slams a fist into the villain's gut before retreating like a phantom. Did that even connect? Lupin Dahl scoffs, claiming he was a split second too slow, and his barrier blocked it. The main character clicks his tongue. Tisk. What a pity. He didn't get a clean hit on that one. But now, he knows. Lupin Dahl can take a beating. Fine, he thinks. Let's amp the damage up by 40%. Lupin thinks he's just spouting nonsense. Random bluffing to stall for cooldowns? Normally, if a player's skill is ready, they don't waste breath chatting. They just pull the trigger. Convinced his opponent is wide open, Lupin Dahl charges in like a rabid beast, only to have a fist smash into his face with earth-shattering force. The impact sends him soaring backward. System alerts scream red. Every single barrier and shield Lupin possessed shattered instantly under the pressure. Lupin skids to a halt, barely staying on his feet. Cold sweat drips down his back. This bastard is far more cunning than he expected. The first punch was just bait, a test to gauge his defenses, while the second was the executioner's blade. Yet, the hero looks dissatisfied? Something didn't go according to plan. He curses internally. The blink skill is such a pain in the neck. If only he had Eye of Mind unlocked at level 55. Desperate, Lupin Dahl unleashes everything. Dark aura floods the area like a tsunami. He decides this next move will be the finale. He is determined to end it here and drag this monster to the Union alive. Watching him, the protagonist recalls a rumor. Lupin Dahl. He had a final trump card up his sleeve. Heart attack, wasn't it? Judging from that desperate stance, that's definitely the one. But two can play at that game. He deactivates his damage dampener. Full power is back online. Lupin Dahl assumes his enemy is out of options. Too late to pray now. Screaming like a deranged animal, Lupin charges one last time. The protagonist mirrors him, and when they collide, boom! A violent shockwave rips through the battlefield. When the dust and smoke finally clear, Han's face is blank. Lupin Dahl's spirit stares, absolutely baffled that his opponent is still standing. He was certain that heart attack spell should have been a death sentence. He silently asks himself, what kind of freak is this guy? Standing there like nothing happened. Meanwhile, Han just eyes the corpse with mild disappointment, annoyed that he actually died. Lupin's fading consciousness wonders if Han is some secret martial arts grandmaster. He's convinced Lupin is just playing possum. He figures that one hit must have shattered every ounce of defensive magic the villain had. Han scratches his head. Why would he go on the offensive when his defense was completely busted? For a second there, he nearly believed Lupin was stronger than him. But that last hit didn't even shave off 10% of his health bar. Lupin might be dead, but his soul lingers. He can hear everything. Silently praying Han will just shut up. Meanwhile, Han ruthlessly critiques the fight. Pathetic damage output. Why bother with a combo? Once his barriers crumbled, he was finished. He calls him a dumbass and wonders how a max chaotic player died like this. Without dropping a single item, Han eventually connects the dots. I must have broken all his gear mid-fight. Nothing left to drop but scraps. The fragments scattered earlier were the remains of his legendary equipment. Hearing this, Lupin's soul metaphorically coughs up blood. Those items were worth more than mountains of gold. Han shrugs it off. If everything broke, there's no loot to be had. Whatever, he guesses. I'm ready for the level 50 zones now. Han preps himself to leave. This victory should unlock the premier hunting grounds for him. With a massive leap, he vanishes into the distance, leaving Lupin's spirit sobbing in the dirt, cursing him under his breath. Calling him a bastard and crying like a petulant child. He is furious. That damn imposter was pretending to be him. He swears he'll get revenge. One day, he'll smash Han's smug face in. He activates Soul Bind, a skill for instant revival. He tries to crawl back into his body, but before he can return, a cloaked stranger emerges from the shadows. He grins. A prime ingredient has finally appeared. The hooded figure's face remained shrouded in shadow. He mumbled a dark incantation, claiming that stumbling upon such a supreme-grade corpse meant the gods of fortune were finally smiling upon him. Rufendal's spirit recoiled in sheer terror. His astral form trembled, desperate to know who this bastard was, and what twisted fate awaited him. The mysterious stranger merely raised a hand. With a casual flick, he snatched the soul from the ether. He muttered that while claiming Han's soul was the original plan. This prize would have to suffice. A bone-chilling aura exploded outward as he began the dark ritual, twisting Rufendal's very essence, forging him into a loyal corpse puppet. The system chimed with a cruel notification. He was now permanently shackled by the soulbind. Freedom was now an impossible dream, unless he shattered the curse. The hooded master smirked, issuing his first absolute command. Drop down and give me 10 push-ups. Rufendal's pride roared like a wildfire. Why would a glorious warrior debase himself? But the soulbind showed no mercy. Violet lightning surged through his spiritual form until he broke. His body moved against his will, pumping out reps, while the cloaked devil cackled in the darkness. Obey, or taste true agony, the stranger warned. Rufendal racked his tortured mind. He had never encountered a skill like Soulbind in all his years. This had to be a legendary hidden class, a necromancer of the highest order. Yet, judging by the tone, the monster behind the hood was terrifyingly young. The robed figure chuckled darkly, mocking the fallen warrior for looking so utterly pathetic in his new state. A spark of cunning lit up Rufendal's thoughts. If he played this right, he could use this monster. He forced a grotesque grin and bowed, addressing the man as master. He immediately brought up the bastard who put him in this state. His eyes gleamed with malicious intent. He offered his services to hunt down Han and exact their revenge. Meanwhile, back in the realm of the living, Han was treating his beloved sister to a feast at McDonald's. Her face lit up brighter than a sunstone at the sight of the burgers. It was exactly what her soul had been craving. She shyly looked up, daring to hope she could eat 2, no, maybe even 3. Han beamed like a total fool, watching her with soft eyes. Then he attacked his own pile of food, like a starving beast unleashed on a buffet. Feeding those dungeon scar devils had been absolute hell, but spoiling his little sister, that was a breeze. He watched patiently, letting her savor every bite. She blinked her large eyes at him, confused by this sudden warmth. In the past, he would have scolded her for being gluttonous, especially if she dared to order more than a single burger. She asked if this generosity was because he was finally raking in cash. Han just blinked, caught off guard. He had no memory of being that harsh. Clearing his throat, he admitted he actually needed a favor. She immediately guessed he wanted her to buy him gear again. He confessed that his luck stat must be in the negatives lately, not just with monster encounters, but his item drop rate was abysmal, thanks to his max chaotic alignment. Sure, some NPCs were willing to assist, but utilizing them efficiently was a nightmare. And raising a combat pet in this chaotic mess? Impossible. He paused for dramatic effect. Then he dropped the bomb. What do you think about starting a foundation with me? She nearly sprayed her soda all over his face. She stared at him as if he had grown a second head. Are you actually out of your mind? Who starts a guild from scratch in this economy? He quickly assured her it wasn't the typical corporate foundation she was imagining. She warned him with a serious expression. Without massive capital or insider intel, the Great Union will crush us, especially with the black monsters flooding the zones. The market is crashing hard. She reminded him her promotion was coming up, so their livelihood was secure. He didn't need to gamble their future. You need to think this through before diving into the abyss. Han nodded slowly, absorbing her wisdom. Yet, the fire in his eyes didn't dim. He still had a proposal she couldn't refuse. With a deep sigh, she asked for the details, and Han began to unveil his master plan. Elsewhere, in the dimly lit war room of the Union, the director delivered a report dripping with blood. Our forces are being slaughtered in the dark wilderness. He mentioned Max Chaotic, the player who swore a vow of non-aggression. But the Union leader cut him off with a sharp gesture. We already issued the decree, the leader barked. Everyone was ordered to steer clear of that itemless maniac. However, the director wasn't convinced. I doubt the man in the video is Rufendal. He pulled up the combat footage of Han's fierce clash. This recording was secured just days ago. It captures Max Chaotic engaging in a direct PvP deathmatch. The leader's eyes narrowed, commending the director for such rare intel. But look here, the director pointed out. He made a rookie mistake. He switched to an all-out offense the moment his defensive barriers shattered. He fought with the desperation of a cornered rat. It felt unnatural. After frame-by-frame analysis, the conclusion was terrifying. Han is a close-quarters martial artist of the highest caliber. Yet, look at his face. He's just a child, the director theorized. He must possess a hidden class. His strength is reckless, untamed. It's clear he hasn't fully mastered his own power. The director added another layer to the mystery. Our spies also intercepted a step-up quest from a noble NPC. What are the details? The leader demanded. The director displayed a portrait, causing the leader to frown deep lines into his forehead. This looks nothing like our target. I confirmed it twice with the nobility, the director asserted. The system has branded Max Chaotic as Ramthedian. Eliminating him is the key to lifting the curse. If we kill him, the debuff vanishes. The director argued his case with cold logic. It is far wiser to hunt a target we have analyzed than to chase ghosts in the fog. The leader shrugged, his interest largely transactional. I only care about securing stable points. How many heads do you need? 30 men should suffice, the director replied coldly. We'll send the lowest ranked staff first. Use them as meat shields to drain his stamina. Pay 100,000 credits to the families of those who don't come back, and offering a 300,001 bonus to top contributors. But a woman speaks up, asking if that pittance is worth gambling their lives. Even in the virtual realm of Olympus, death carries a heavy mental toll, every T. Yet the director waves off her concerns, promising rank-up points as compensation. Exploiting the members' blind loyalty, he is confident they will march to their doom. He concludes the briefing with a smirk of absolute arrogance. Preaching that they must grind their bones to dust while they still have youth, the guild leader lets out a dark chuckle, claiming 300,001 is a generous incentive. Meanwhile, a staggering 700 million gold bounty sits on the target's head. The director plots to skim 200 million won for himself. The leader signs the death warrant, thinking 3 million is plenty for the fodder. He regards their lives as nothing but fuel for his bank account. The twisted tyrant concludes his monologue with a blood-chilling smile. High in the peaks of the Lepnia Mountains, Seiya finally locates her brother. Han's expression brightens instantly at the appearance of his sibling. He demands the goods immediately. She nods, though a storm of skepticism brews behind her eyes. She questions the utility of these tomes. After all, they are nothing but beginner-tier magic manuals, containing spells weaker than a novice mage's first cantrip. Surely there is no point in learning such trash, especially in the middle of a job change quest. With his godlike stats, he should have awakened a class eons ago. He poses a philosophical question. In the hands of a sword master, does not even a blade of grass become a legendary weapon? She blinks. Unfamiliar with such martial wisdom, he explains that with god-tier parameters, the rules of reality bend. Your simple basic attack evolves into a catastrophe. He speed reads the manuals, absorbing skills faster than a supercomputer. He laments his fate, possessing world-ending specs but stuck fighting like a discount. One Punch Man, suddenly realization strikes her. He still has not completed his class awakening. The revelation nearly snaps her neck from shock. He confirms her worst fears. Panic consumes her, running around like a headless chicken. How can a being of such absurd power remain a jobless vagrant? The injustice of the world crushes her. She resigned from her guild for this, betting her future on a brother who remains unemployed. Her sanity begins to fray, muttering that he must take responsibility for her life, since she has gone all in on his success. He is well aware of the stakes. Beneath his casual demeanor, a deep current of gratitude flows for her sacrifice. Dreaming of restoring their family's lost honor, he decides to test a theory, casting a level 1 heal on his skepticism-filled sister. She scoffs at the attempt, believing a beginner spell would not even tickle her injuries. He tells her to trust the process. Miraculously, flesh knits together in an instant, yet her denial remains strong. She reaches for a potion, fearing the worst. He points a finger at her status window. Her eyes go wide with shock. Her health bar is completely full. Her brain short-circuits trying to comprehend the math. He does not stop there. He layers attack and defense buffs upon her, urging her to test this newfound might. She looks around bewildered, searching for a target, perhaps a weak skeleton soldier. He simply points a thumb over her shoulder, telling her to aim higher. She spins around and nearly loses her soul, facing a colossal black bear. Not a mana beast, but a primal predator of the wild. Fear freezes her blood as the beast charges. Does he expect her to solo a raid boss? A monster that usually demands a full party to scratch? 3 minutes later, the impossible has happened. She stands victorious, calling the power insane but undeniably epic. Faith is finally restored, especially after looting a rare blue stone, worth a sweet 5 million won on the black market. He reminds her of the scam. The Union would offer a pathetic 100,000 won incentive, but they are free agents now. Every drop of loot is theirs to keep. He proposes a power leveling session to level 45 in the Field of Darkness. She agrees instantly. They venture into the danger zone. He struts with the confidence of a king, dragging a literal stampede of monsters behind him. She begins her aria of destruction, blasting the charging chaos cows with lightning, while her brother acts as the ultimate tank. He praises her aim amidst the carnage, as the battlefield showers them in loot. 18 precious stones in total. She suppresses a scream of pure capitalism. Doing the math creates a sum of 90 million won. She jokes about opening a burger franchise with the profits, but his hunter instincts tingle. The zone is suspiciously quiet. He suspects a boss spawn, or a black monster scaring away the usual mobs in this once crowded grinding spot. Suddenly, player killers emerge from the shadows, hunting the max chaotic bounty. He swats one aside like a buzzing fly. Deliberately suppressing his aura, he leaves the kill for his sister, allowing her to inherit their gear alongside the victory. She executes the final blow and claims the spoils, questioning if this constitutes highway robbery. He laughs off her moral dilemma. To the world he is just a trash tier, chaotic. No one will suspect the dragon hiding in human skin. But make no mistake, if anyone dares to cross him, he will crush them into dust without a second thought. With a casual flick of his wrist, he signals ahead, revealing a veritable army marching straight for their throats. Her eyes lock onto a single figure radiating a terrifying aura. A high ranker, likely surpassing level 50, leading an elite kill squad in his wake. The horrifying truth crashes down on her like a landslide. This isn't a random encounter. This entire battalion is here for a raid boss, and that boss is him. He nods, confirming her worst nightmare. Panic seizes her heart. She screams that they need to retreat, to flee before death, claims them both. But in his eyes, the die has already been cast. As she flails in sheer desperation, the system's cold, mechanical voice rings out, sealing their fate. Escape is impossible until all hostile combatants are eliminated. He shoots her a look, telling her to get a grip and calm the hell down, assuring her that this is nothing he can't handle. He orders her to step back and create distance, ensuring she doesn't look like his accomplice in the slaughter to come. A twisted, demonic grin spreads across his face. He surveys the dozens of fools who traveled all this way just to hunt a single man. He offers them a final mercy. If they sheath their weapons now, he will let them leave with their lives. But the army commander simply turns to his troops, his voice booming, identifying their target, the max chaotic player. Drawing his blade, he commands his forces to execute the plan and maintain a tactical formation. The leader is revealed to be Jin, a high-ranking executive director. At his signal, the mages begin the chant for a high-tier binding spell, intending to seal his movements completely. But a look of pure disappointment washes over our hero's face. He gave them a chance. Nobody had to die today, but peace was never an option for them. In an instant, he shatters their binding magic like glass and retaliates with a single, roaring fireball. Jin scoffs at the sight, dismissing it as nothing more than basic, beginner-level magic. He barks orders for the tankers to deploy magic shields. Jin calculates that even if this spell packs a punch, it won't be enough. After all, their enemy is a melee fighter at heart. His magic aptitude should be garbage. He signals the ranged damage dealers to charge their ultimate skill combos, planning to strike the second the smoke clears. Every soldier is drooling over the 3,000,001 gold bounty on his head. They follow Jin's commands like obedient dogs. Meanwhile, our protagonist watches with dead, bored eyes, struggling to even remember who he's fighting, vaguely recalling some guy named Rufendal. Suddenly, a cataclysmic explosion rocks the battlefield. Jin is thrown back, barely clinging to life. Coughing through the smoke, he scans the area in horror. His entire army lies motionless, decimated in a heartbeat. He blinks, rapidly, His brain refuses to process the scene. How could a melee class wipe out his squad with standard, introductory magic? He freezes, trying to rationalize how a basic spell caused a massacre of this magnitude. A cold seed of doubt sprouts in his mind. Is their target actually a secret mage? But that logic falls apart. If he were a high-level caster, the binding spell shouldn't have worked at all. Yet, the most terrifying part is that the monster hasn't moved a single inch. Jin considers sounding the retreat while he still has legs to run with. Suddenly, the silence is broken as the enemy mutters to himself, observing that instant death is the result for anyone his magic touches. The girl chimes in, eyes wide, admitting she has never seen a fireball inflict such devastation. He shrugs, admitting even he was surprised by the output. She assumes he's still trapped by the earlier binding spell, but he shakes his head. He's been free this whole time. When she asks why the hell he's just standing there like a statue, he grins. He was just focusing on their conversation. Besides, his fireball cooldown hasn't reset yet. He wants to test the skill a few more times on these living practice dummies. A dark, unhinged chuckle escapes his throat, sounding more like a villain than a hero. She stares at him, her mind completely blown, realizing her big brother is no longer the ordinary guy she once knew. While the executive director spirals into panic, Han lets out a long, lazy yawn, looking ready to take a nap right there on the battlefield. Finally, the cooldown timer pings to 0, and he thinks to himself, that waiting a whole damn minute between shots is annoying as hell. Meanwhile, the executive director desperately orders his long-range units to ready up and wait for his signal. The poor guy has absolutely no clue what is actually happening. He begins to theorize that Han isn't a martial artist at all, but some sneaky, overpowered mage class in disguise. Meanwhile, in a different sector of the city, another union leader receives a frantic emergency call from Jin, who is begging for backup because the situation has gone completely foobar. He explains hurriedly that Han is a magic user, not a fighter. They need tankers over level 30 specifically geared to absorb magic damage immediately. The union leader blinks, asking what kind of hellscape they stumbled into. Jin screams that they've already lost men, claiming the bastard is currently stuck in a trap spell while his skills are on cooldown, but he insists they need to end this now, before Han wipes the rest of the squad from existence. The union leader realizes their intel was garbage, but frankly, he doesn't give a damn. He assumes Han is just playing smart. He tells Jin to hang tight, reinforcements are already en route, thinking that splitting the reward is better than losing the kill. Back on the battlefield, the tension reaches its breaking point. Jin commands his archers to prepare a lethal barrage. In his mind, Han is still paralyzed by the spell, leading him to the brilliant conclusion that his opponent must be a wizard. Being the absolute fool that he is, he thinks this is their golden opportunity and screams for everyone to fire. Han simply smirks in the face of death as the second line opens fire and the third unleashes a storm of arrows intended to bury him. A cataclysmic explosion swallows the battlefield in flames. Jin screams through the smoke, ordering a relentless barrage without pause. He refuses to grant even a heartbeat of respite. Convinced victory is within reach, he ignores the terrifying reality of Han's true class. His only goal is total suppression, drowning the monster in a sea of violence. A nervous grin trembles on his lips. Praying to the gods of fortune, he hopes to slash Han's health points by half before the main force arrives. But like a phantom, Han tears through the smoke. He cuts down a guard in a flash of steel, leaving Jin frozen in sheer horror. Reality shatters before his eyes. The target was trapped, yet now he moves with the ferocity of an unleashed demon. Han announces his cooldowns have reset. The slaughter begins as he weaves fresh fire magic into a dance of death. Jin's desperate commands fall on deaf ears. Han offers a chilling reminder. He warned them to flee or face their doom. He becomes a whirlwind of carnage, tearing through their ranks like this is merely a twisted game. The soldiers falter terror, gripping their hearts. Yet Jin roars, demanding they hold the line against the inevitable. Suddenly, a heavy presence arrives. The Union leader steps forth, commending Jin's defense and taking command of the battlefield. Jin frantically asks for support. The leader assures him the call has already been made to their dark associates. Eliminating Han is now the supreme objective. The quest has been shared, marking him as a public enemy. An escalation quest triggers a massive mobilization. Meanwhile, Han stands amidst the chaos like a living nightmare. The leader eyes the mountain of corpses with concern. Yet with 200 men at his back, arrogance blinds him. Defeat seems impossible in his mind, and he tells Jin to relax. Han, however, checks his status with a bored expression. His health points haven't dropped by a single digit. Compared to Rufendal, these mobs are utter trash. His regeneration stats are god tier, rendering their attacks meaningless. A cold chuckle escapes his lips. Respecting his past rival's strength, he grins. Wiping out 200 insects will be nothing more than a warm-up. On the periphery, his sister watches the bloodbath unfold, anxiety tightening her chest. Han signals her to attack him. She freezes in confusion, but he insists she must blend in to avoid suspicion. Standing like a stone statue, she asks if she should really strike him with lightning. Do it, he commands without hesitation. Shrugging off the absurdity, she decides to hell with it. A bolt of lightning arcs from her hands, aiming straight for her brother. A system window pops up and he yells for a timeout. But it is too late. The electricity is already frying him alive. Amidst the shock, the system announces a legendary class awakening. She blinks, utterly bewildered by the sudden turn of events. He has reached the state of maximum chaos. The mark of the murderer deepens, consumed by an abyss of darkness. He anticipated this evolution, but not this. Abruptly, the system bestows upon him a title of Terror, the Heavenly, Murderous Constellation. As his infamy spreads across the continent, his power level skyrockets. His eyes glow with bestial ferocity as he opens the status window. The title reads, The World's Worst Murderer, Born of Pure Killing Intent. The buffs are god tier, but the title itself? It feels a bit excessive. He sighs, realizing he is walking the path of an absolute villain. As his blade harvests more souls, a notification pings. Loyalty with the Sky Devil faction is increasing with every crime. He spots a new passive skill. It is a devastating counter, perfectly designed for crushing hero-class opponents. He analyzes his stats while effortlessly butchering the front line. Meanwhile, the poor souls facing him are in chaos. Is he a martial artist? A mage? They cannot comprehend the monster standing before them. Han smirks at their confusion and drops the bombshell. I haven't even selected my class yet. The soldiers freeze their minds, shattering in horror. What kind of demon is this? The executive director turns to President Zhang in panic. Desperate for a strategy, he asks for orders. President Zhang realizes the situation has spiraled out of control. The old man assumes it is a bluff to hide a weakness. In this world, every class must have a fatal flaw. He orders Director Jin to follow. They will handle this personally, he screams, branding Han, a filthy criminal scum. He vows to exploit a weakness and end Han's life. But in a split second, Han tears through them both like wet paper. Weakness? I have none. Stretching his back amidst a field of death, a thought suddenly strikes him. He actually does have a weakness, no area of effect skills. He sighs, resolving to grind harder and purchase one immediately. His sister approaches, asking to run some experiments. He raises a brow, wondering what crazy scheme she has cooked up now. She reveals a hidden truth. A special class advancement quest lies ahead as they step together into the abyss of the dungeon. Warning him to brace for impact, she overlays multiple arcane buffs before unleashing a crackling bolt of lightning directly at him. Miraculously, her strike pierces his ironclad defense. For the first time, he feels the sting, comparing her raw power to the legendary Rufundal's final blow. She channels every ounce of mana into a devastating strike. But even as agony tears through him, his monstrous regeneration speed kicks in instantly. It seems death is a stranger to this man. Undeterred, she unleashes a relentless barrage, turning the dungeon into a storm of magic. Refusing to yield, she hammers him with spell after spell until his health bar finally flickers into the critical red zone. Just as his life hangs by a thread, she collapses from mana exhaustion. Suddenly, the system flashes a terrifying notification. Heavenly Murderous Constellation. It took an hour of constant bombardment to weaken him. Drained and battered, he can barely process the legendary title hovering above him. He realizes this ordeal was a necessary trial. The truth is undeniable. He is the calamity, the murderous constellation itself. But rest is a luxury they don't have. Sensing monsters encroaching, he orders her to stay put while he prepares to purge the area. The system floods his vision with useless alerts, but none of it matters. She watches, knowing exactly what kind of monster he truly is. With a bored expression, he obliterates the skeleton army like they are made of glass. Deciding to plunge deeper into the dungeon's darkness, he signals his departure, telling her to whisper him if trouble arises. She nods, understanding her role is finished for now. As the murderous constellation fades into the shadows, the system chimes the secret conditions for the last quest have been met. Radiant light engulfs her silhouette. The energy reshapes her very being, awakening her as the formidable seventh constellation. Nearby, Han is left scratching his head at the chaotic display. Meanwhile, in another corner of reality, destiny takes a different turn. His sister undergoes a complete metamorphosis. The system piles buff after buff upon her, leaving her stunned by this sudden ascension to godhood. Back in the physical realm, inside the Union's sterile war room, the Guildmaster Effort Giver commands the attention of the elite. He acknowledges their presence with a stiff nod, reasserting his dominance as Alliance leader, before letting out a heavy, calculated sigh. Apologizing for the emergency offline summon, he drops the facade and cuts to the chase. Their mighty alliance is standing on the precipice of ruin. The Max Chaotic Red quest ended in a complete disaster due to a critical information blackout, and the fallout is catastrophic. Investors have abandoned ship, leaving the guild financially crippled. To survive, a ruthless purge of the membership is unavoidable. Rage ripples through the room. Members curse the name Max Chaotic, blaming that bastard for dragging their legacy through the mud. Just as they suspect the leader is cracking under pressure, a sinister, twisted grin slowly stretches across his face. It is all dancing to his tune. He offers a deeper apology, but his eyes betray a different, darker intent. He announces they will continue to obscure the quest details, admitting even he does not know when victory will come, but he dangles a golden carrot, massive step-up points for everyone upon completion. It is a desperate promise to quell the mutiny. He dismisses them, praying their next gathering celebrates a reborn, invincible alliance rather than a funeral. He feels zero remorse. With a never-ending line of desperate recruits waiting outside, the twisted old man views his members as replaceable trash. His only true concern is repairing the severed ties with the trading companies before the gold flow dries up completely. Sinking into his luxury chair, he initiates the dive into Olympus, lamenting that this entire mess could have been avoided. If only he had sacrificed himself back then. Rebuilding a shattered reputation is hell, but he is ready to roll the dice one last time. Eliminating that chaotic anomaly is the only path to salvation. He is prepared to burn the embezzled billion gold to make it happen. It is dirty money, stolen alongside the directors. But, as he materializes in Olympus, he knows it is a necessary evil. This fortune will buy Khan's head. He navigates the digital streets, stepping into the dim, smoky atmosphere of a mercenary tavern. The NPC bartender greets him with intrigue. The old man wastes no time, sliding a photograph across the rough wooden counter. I want a hit on the murder veil. The worker studies the image, raising a brow at the sheer audacity of the target. But business is business, he shrugs, confirming the guild can handle it, and demands to see the coin immediately. 1 billion gold slams onto the table. The worker's eyes widen. 3 days is all they need to erase the target from existence. He knows the score. Murder Veil and the Black Floral Group are the apex predators of the Empire's assassination world. That Max Chaotic punk is walking dead meat. Losing a billion stings like a gut wound, but vengeance requires sacrifice. He soothes his greed once Khan falls. The step-up points will rain down, earning him back 7 times this investment. Convinced of his genius, he steps out of the safety zone and into the open field. Now, the 3-day countdown begins. But the moment his foot touches the forest floor, slash! A blade flashes from the void, severing his head from his shoulders. His vision spins as he realizes he has been assassinated. But his brain shuts down before the thought lands. He never even felt the killing intent. A cold system alert flashed before his eyes, declaring he was trapped in a spectral form until he disconnected from this reality. Drifting like a phantom in the void, he spun around to see a masked figure standing with icy calm, dropping a single slip of paper that fluttered to the earth, bearing the ominous crest of the Black Floral Group. Han froze his gaze, locked on the mark. He had no idea why these shadows were hunting him, but the assassin's voice cut through the silence, declaring this was merely the prelude to his slaughter. Meanwhile, deep within the fortress of Murder Veil, a subordinate bowed low before his master reporting that the contract had been outsourced to the Black Floral Group. Just as requested, the leader leaned back, assuming the target was already crushed like an insect, a cruel smirk curling his lips. The time had finally come for him to make his move, but then the subordinate dared to voice a dangerous thought, suggesting they could have simply crushed the old man themselves. The atmosphere instantly shattered as the leader rose, his killing aura suffocating the room. Every spine in the chamber went rigid with fear as he commanded the fool to shut his mouth, or meet his end, right here and now. The crimson-haired tyrant stood tall, his overwhelming pressure shaking the very foundations as he made his declaration. "I will handle this contract with my own hands," he roared, ordering them to spread the word while the minion let out a trembling breath. Grateful that his head remained on his shoulders, stepping into the open air, the Crimson Leader's eyes gleamed with anticipation, thinking finally, the moment has arrived to face the absolute evil Han. For 30 long years, this man had ruled as the founder of Murder Veil. He had survived 1,000 battlefields, yet the ultimate darkness he sought remained imperfect. Hidden shackles must be binding, his potential, a puzzle for the man known as the Second Elder Yor to solve. He intended to judge with his own blade if Han was truly worthy of the title Absolute Ruler. Meanwhile, Han stood in stunned silence as the realization hit him that his sister had already smashed past level 30. She flashed a triumphant grin, explaining that ever since her class awakening, her growth rate had gone completely berserk. Behold the 7th constellation, the pure white mage, who had already reached level 31. Han noted grimly that she had 0 skill points remaining. But she simply shrugged with casual arrogance, claiming she did not need points when she had already claimed her throne. As a constellation, she finally understood the madness. This was why players lost their minds. The thrill of the upgrade was intoxicating, yet she turned to him with genuine gratitude. She knew she only ascended because of him, while Han's mind reeled, realizing she triggered the class change just by striking him once. If a single hit did that, then his existence truly was absolute evil. She chirped about hunting together, but dread crept into his heart. If all 7 constellations could power level this effortlessly, without burning points, he was doomed in the long game. All he desired was a peaceful life of gourmet food, but at this velocity, his sister reaching level 99 was inevitable. Recalling their battle in his field of darkness, he took precautions, equipping her with a cognitive interference mask. Now he could whisper without the public chat exposing her identity. She looked at him with innocent eyes, asking if she could continue poking him with attacks occasionally, but before he could answer, a system alert chimed. Warning. She has officially ascended to the rank of Platinum Hero. Han's blood ran cold, realizing the implications. Just by scratching his health points, she would attract a swarm of unwanted pests. He sighed and gave her permission to continue. But he set a strict condition. Do not kill me and go easy. She lit up like a sunbeam. A devilish smirk played on her lips as she joked that she hoped to deliver the final blow someday, since beating him had already boosted her levels beyond reason. With a dark glimmer in her eyes, she asked, "Can I kill you?" He reminded her that he was her brother, but she fired back that it was just a game and they could split the legendary loot. He shook his head, promising that if the day came when he must fall, he would let her be the one to claim his life. The prospect of fratricide sent her soaring with delight. He only agreed because a dark curiosity lingered in his own mind. Yet a nagging thought remained: why in the world was she so eager to end his existence? He pushed the thought away, content to see her radiant with joy, now that she was a constellation. Days melted away, and she crushed another Blackbeard boss like she was swatting a mosquito. They swept through the dungeon, a hurricane of destruction. She snatched up the rare artifacts, and he ordered her to secure them. He summoned his status window, expecting the level up notification, but agony he was short by a microscopic sliver of experience. He was teetering on the brink of ascension, so he decided to hunt a few more beasts while she went to restock potions. Be careful, and do not lose that loot, he warned, but she waved a dismissive hand, promising to be back in a flash. She would be gone for 10 minutes tops, and if he slaughtered enough monsters in that time, the next level was his. But suddenly, a suffocating killing intent crushed the atmosphere, and a voice dripped with the authority of the Sky Devil's ruler. Like a phantom, Johann materialized from thin air, his cold steel kissing the protagonist's jugular as the second elder made his entrance. He declared that the clock had run out. This was the ultimate trial to determine if he possessed the qualifications of an absolute ruler. Failure meant instant execution, and the Murder Veil sect would not hesitate to issue a blood-kill order against his soul. The system screamed a warning, triggering a new quest. Survive the ambush of Second Elder Johann, difficulty level SSS. Alarm bells rang in his mind as the interface highlighted Johann's legendary status as the apex predator of stealth among the 12 elders. The mission objective was clear but insane. Subdue this master assassin and force him to acknowledge his authority. A grim notification flashed, reminding him that if he failed to secure the loyalty of this subordinate, he was about to step into a world of absolute misery and pain. Even though this was technically a side story in the Return of the Absolute Ruler arc, the triple S difficulty rating was no joke. Considering his demonic sister unlocked the power of a constellation just by using him as a punching bag, it became terrifyingly clear that he was the designated main villain of this entire universe. If the other constellations scaled up their power similarly without needing experience points, their growth rates would be game-breaking. Some might have already smashed past level 90. If he had to solo a raid against every awakened constellation, it made sense that the system would throw impossible triple S quests at him, just to balance the cosmic scales. He glared at Johann, who commanded him to draw his weapon, but his inner thoughts were racing. This old assassin wasn't stupid. Johann knew perfectly well that he was completely unarmed. Why demand a duel? He questioned why he even needed to prove his worth to a subordinate. As Johann stared him down, he realized something crucial. If the Elder truly wanted him dead, he wouldn't be monologuing. This hesitation proved he was just another loyal fanatic waiting for the Sky Devil's resurrection. That loyalty was his only card to play. He scoffed, reminding Johann that his body was currently under a severe seal, a seal that was on the brink of shattering. Seeing the knife lower slightly, he leaned into the act, admitting his current state was feeble, pathetically weak, in fact. That was exactly why breaking this accursed restriction was taking an eternity. He knew the sect had been holding its breath, waiting for his return, and if they could just endure a moment longer, he would undoubtedly rise as their supreme absolute ruler once more. He projected absolute confidence, but internally, he wondered why Johann was so hell-bent on crushing this tiny hope. He questioned if the second elder was ready to face the consequences of regicide. Johann paused. And that silence was all the confirmation he needed. Now was the time to bluff like his life depended on it. He declared that while he might look like trash now, in mere moments, he would fully master the legendary heaven-shattering ghost art left by his master in just 10 minutes. Johan's eyes nearly popped out of his skull as he stammered the name of the forbidden technique. Trembling, he asked if it was true. The protagonist smirked, promising that if Johan granted him this short reprieve, he would witness a miracle. The assassin decided to gamble on faith and vanished into stealth mode, vowing to watch from the shadows and granting him exactly 10 minutes of mercy. The system timer appeared, ticking down the seconds of his life, and he let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. He had bought himself a lifeline, his experience bar was nearly full, and he just needed to slaughter a few trash mobs to level up. He rushed out of the dungeon, convinced that with his negative 99 luck stat, monsters would be swarming him like bees to honey. It should have been a walk in the park, but the moment he stepped outside, reality delivered a cruel slap to the face. The wasteland was barren. Not a single skeleton, not even a stray bear was wandering the grounds. Despair crashed over him, and tears streamed down his face as he screamed at the empty horizon. He cursed the heavens for abandoning him, exactly when he needed a little bad luck to survive. The timer hit 30 seconds. He realized too late that fighting Johan head-on might have been a better death. But then the memory of that blade, slicing the air, froze his blood. He wouldn't have lasted a heartbeat. 20 seconds remaining. Panic seized his heart as he frantically tried to invent another lie, another excuse, anything to stop the execution. He knew Johan's patience had run dry. But suddenly, a chaotic variable entered the scene. His sister burst onto the battlefield, shouting that she had finally found him, and he screamed at her to flee, but she just stared in confusion. She charges toward him, a calamitous stampede of monsters thundering at her heels. Breathless, she screams that she worked herself to the bone, dragging this entire horde to his location. At first, he stares in sheer disbelief, but then, a maniacal cackle rips from his throat like a beast unchained. Without hesitation, he dashes forward. She watches, bewildered, as he sprints right past her, roaring for her to escape first, promising a handsome reward once the carnage ends. He dives headfirst into the sea of monsters, tearing through them with savage efficiency. He slaughters left and right, hitting level 40 mere seconds before the timer hits 0. Wasting no time, he triggers his skill. The second elder materializes behind him, coolly warning him not to fall behind the system's pace. Suddenly, holographic windows flicker into a blinding golden glow. The requirements are cleared. The legendary heaven-shattering ghost art is finally unlocked. A supernova of golden radiance erupts from his body, granting him absolute dominance over the Sky Devil. He realizes he has the advantage now, even with his base physical specs. He mutters that it was a razor-thin margin, but he is certain even Johan can find no fault in this performance. The title of Murderous Constellation is branded onto his soul, permanent and undeniable. He wonders what the system is plotting next when suddenly, a world-shaking announcement declares him the absolute evil. A torrent of malevolent energy pours from his core. The second elder freezes in terror, the crushing realization dawning on him that his master truly is the absolute evil. He forces out a tense, nervous laugh, claiming he foresaw this. But deep down, being branded as the world's greatest villain feels sickeningly twisted. Deciding to ignore the dread, he opens his status window. Reading the words absolute evil, he watches a tsunami of new abilities stack up. He realizes that the heaven-shattering ghost art has evolved beyond all logic. The system notifications spam his vision like a glitching server, bombarding him with wild, god-tier powers, one after another. Overwhelmed by the aura, the second elder collapses to his knees, bowing his head in submission, begging for forgiveness for his earlier doubts. The protagonist tells Johan to rise, admitting he would have questioned himself too, if their roles were swapped. He is simply relieved that Johan has finally recognized him as his true liege. But behind that benevolent smile, his mind is scheming. He is dead set on seizing the murder veil for himself. Now, Johan swears his eternal allegiance, clearing the quest in one smooth stroke. He mentally pats himself on the back, knowing there is only one elder left to conquer. He begins to tell Johan that he is counting on him, but freezes mid-sentence as his sister begins spamming his private chat. He quickly types back, asking if she is safe. She brushes off his concern, demanding he focus on the catastrophic news. She asks if he saw the global announcements. He replies that it is absolute chaos out there. Apparently, breaking news has confirmed the birth of the absolute evil. The entire player community is in a total meltdown, desperate to hunt down this villain, so they can clear the raid quest. She warns him that if he joins the hunt for this absolute killer, his max chaotic stat will likely be wiped clean. He feels a pang of awkwardness, realizing she is basically talking about hunting him down to his face. He casually mentions that thanks to her help, his stats have already shattered the 100 barrier. She immediately demands to know the jump. He answers with a nonchalant 19 points. She freezes. Gaining even a single point at this stage is supposed to be impossible. She stares blankly at the screen, wondering what kind of game-breaking nonsense he has pulled off this time. She concludes he must have struck impossible luck while doing random tasks again. She congratulates him, though her brain is struggling to process the absurdity. Her heart races so fast she feels lightheaded, so she logs off Olympus to ground herself in reality. She knows her brother has never been normal, but this is too much to handle. She shakes her head, deciding to head outside for some fresh air. Back in the game, he muses that even she could not handle the shock this time. He wonders how on earth he is supposed to explain that he is actually the absolute evil everyone fears. He pushes the thought aside, focusing on his SSS class quest reward. He signals Yorhan to continue, silently praying that he receives the entirety of the Murdervale sect as his prize, since owning a sect would make fighting constellations and raking in cash infinitely easier. The second elder clears his throat, beginning, saying there is something urgent he must report. The protagonist nods for him to proceed, so Yorhan prepares to share critical details regarding the Murdervale's current military power. But before he can utter another syllable, a group of unwelcome intruders crashes the scene. The second elder instantly vanishes into stealth mode, while the protagonist clicks his tongue in annoyance, furious at being interrupted during a crucial briefing. A squad of armored soldiers stomps forward, branding him a Ramptadian. Their leader bellows that whoever claims the head of the Ramptadian will walk away with a fortune. The protagonist scowls, wondering why these fools insist on calling him Ramptadian again. He sighs heavily, thinking these courting death idiots really never get tired of pulling the same stunt. The knight riding at the front assumes Hans is alone and vulnerable. With a roar, he commands his troops to charge and seize glory for the Bavaria Order. Han watches the swarm approach with cold indifference. They rush straight for him, unaware of the abyss they are entering. Han ignites the heaven-shattering ghost art. Usually, the terrified pressure makes NPCs freeze in horror, but looking at these weaklings, he can only sigh internally at the lack of challenge. It is his first clash with knights, yet these must be the bottom of the barrel. The battle ends in a flash, leaving him feeling utterly underwhelmed. The silence is deafening. The commander stands frozen, his brain seemingly short-circuited by the instant massacre. He begins cursing violently, his mind refusing to accept reality. Even if Han wiped out the order, surely he must be injured. Like a madman, he lunges forward, aiming for the throat. But his desperate grip is halted, as if hitting an iron wall. Han chuckles, genuinely impressed by the audacity, wondering if this fool at least carries a decent weapon to loot. The commander believes Han is running on fumes. But with the boredom of a child crushing an ant, Han caves his head in with a single punch. The system chimes. The Viscount of Bavaria has fallen. Han hums in satisfaction. This heaven-shattering ghost art is truly broken. Even after that massacre, his stamina bar hasn't moved an inch. With the trash taken out, it is time for his reward. He drags the second elder forward by the collar. He orders him to speak, but the moment is interrupted. An arrogant voice from the shadows begins praising his technique. Instantly irritated, Han wonders which fly is buzzing now. He barks at the mystery figure to show himself immediately. A robed man emerges from the darkness. Han asks if he is another bounty hunter looking for an early grave. The stranger smirks, shaking his head. He is something far worse than a hunter. He is here to claim a slave. The bastard pulls out Rufus like a marionette on strings, showing off his prize. Han instantly recognizes the trash who once killed him. He stares blankly, while Professor Daly lets out a tiny sigh in his mind. Even the professor admits Han messed up this time. The robed man nods, certain that Han will soon join his collection. Grinning like a creep, he rambles about his luck. It is rare to find such high-quality corpses for free. Promising to treasure Han forever, he raises his hand. Dark magic swirls as he casts Rise. In an instant, the squad Han slaughtered jolts back to unholy life. The Viscount rises. His dead soldiers scramble to their feet. Han realizes this clown is a necromancer. The undead glare at him with intense killing intent. Han notes a hidden class at play. These are not mindless zombies. They have resurrected with their egos and memories intact. Strangely, he cannot read their stats. It matters not if they use heaven shards or ghost shards. The Viscount bows to the robed man, calling him master. Bound by a soul contract, he vows to sacrifice everything for his new lord. Han analyzes the situation. This necromancer's skill is absolutely broken. The Viscount turns to Han, dead set on finishing the job this time. He is convinced Han has zero chance against the undead. But before a single claw touches him, the entire army freezes. Han raises a brow, confused. The system provides the answer. He is the absolute evil. His authority over darkness is supreme. The heaven-shattering ghost art is actively crushing the necromancer's control. The robed man starts sweating bullets. Terrified, he screams orders at his slaves, but they stand motionless. Han unknowingly hijacks the entire undead army. His energy combined with his title dominates their souls. Even he is thrown off. Realizing they obey his will now, he waves his hand and simply orders them to die again. Ruffendal realizes he is about to be double killed. The necromancer screams, in protest. Han ignores the noise and looks at Ruffendal. A wicked idea forms, and he smirks devilishly. Since Ruffendal is under his command, he orders him to do jumping jacks. The undead knight tries to resist his dignity, but purple lightning crashes down on him. Forced by the system, he begins hopping around like a complete idiot. The necromancer stands there, trembling in panic. Han asks his age, and the boy blurts out, 19. He tries to backtrack, but it is too late. Han sighs, disappointed that these undead minions are useless trash. He explains his philosophy clearly. I do not kill those who haven't tried to kill me. The necromancer sees an opening. He immediately drops to his knees, begging for his life. Han waves him off, and the coward scuttles away into the night. Han turns his attention back to the criminal, Ruffendal. The undead knight immediately changes his tune. He laughs off the past, calling Han Sr. and swearing eternal loyalty. He promises to be a loyal dog if Han just spares him. Han stares him down. Betray me, and death will be a mercy. With the creature's life force fading, Ruff nods in silent agreement as a smug, victorious grin stretches across the protagonist's face. It seems he won't need to hunt for a pet any longer. Meanwhile, in reality, a player forcefully disconnects from Olympus and stumbles out of the capsule. Her body trembles violently, muttering about the sheer terror of that man's presence. She is simply relieved to have escaped with her life. Her mind reels, unable to comprehend how a single player could utterly dominate her in the art of necromancy like that. Perhaps he is the prophesied one her master spoke of, a warning that one day, the true sovereign of this world would finally descend. And when that day arrived, her duty was clear. Serve him with absolute loyalty so he might crush every obstacle in his path. He would bring the entire continent to its knees. She wonders if he is that destined king, fated to rule over all creation. A glance at her phone shatters the moment. Cursing under her breath at the time, she realizes she is late and dashes off in a panic. Back within the digital realm, the second elder materializes, stating there are still 2 vital matters he has yet to report. He prepares to continue, and Han cannot help but admire the old man's persistence, though he urges him to make it quick. He needs to finish before another interruption occurs. The second elder immediately begins his report on the organization known as Murder Veil. Currently, the Murder Veil commands 2 S-rank assassins capable of eliminating high-tier Imperial officials, alongside 20 A-rank elites. Beneath them are 100 B-rank killers, and a legion of C-ranks too numerous to even bother tallying at this stage. Countless warriors clamor to join their ranks, while others perish in the brutal selection process. Furthermore, intelligence suggests Murder Veil has established deep aristocratic connections across the continent, over 30 years of shadow operations. They have amassed 2 billion gold in operating capital, plus an additional 4 billion gold in personal funds belonging to the leader. This brings the total assets to a staggering 6 billion gold. And now, every single coin belongs to him. The system notification chimes. The quest to gain the second elder's approval is complete, and he secures the extra 6 billion gold reward. His brain nearly short-circuits trying to process this astronomical wealth. The shock is visible, but he forces a mask of calm. He cannot let the elder see him fluster. Nodding stoically, he praises the elder's loyalty and insists he keep the 2 billion gold. It is necessary to keep the Murder Veil running efficiently. As for the remaining 4 billion, he declares it will fund their future operations. It will support both the Murder Veil and the Sky Devil Group. Hearing this, tears of gratitude well up in Johan's eyes as he swears eternal fealty. Internally, Han is throwing a party, unable to believe his smooth-talking manipulation actually worked this perfectly. With the Murder Veil now firmly in his grasp, his quests and future dominance are secured. However, he raises one final concern. He asks about the third leader, Lexer. The elder's expression darkens. Unlike himself, this man is a different breed of dangerous. Lexer does not offer warnings or pleasantries. When he strikes, it is instantaneous, aiming solely to extinguish life. Han deduces that Lexer must also be an assassin class. The second elder confirms it, revealing Lexer is the head of the Black Floral Group. Han freezes for a split second at the revelation. He signals Johan to pause as he checks his urgent system notifications. 2 constellations have already been selected, but honestly, he could not care less who they are. If they want to fight, let them come. After all, his sister is the 7th constellation, and the entire murder veil is now his personal army. Suddenly, a barrage of messages from his sister floods his inbox. He wonders if something is wrong. Surely she is back home by now. But a strange unease settles in his gut. Could she have discovered the identities of the first and second constellations? Sia quickly clarifies. It is not about the game. It is something far more critical. She has just run into a very close friend. Flashback to their meeting. When the girl arrived, Sia greeted her with a bright smile. Her friend, Si-song, apologized for the wait. Just as Si-song tried to have a peaceful conversation, some random mob character sneaked up, asking for her number. She rejected him with cold politeness. She has always found it unsettling how men claim she is their type, even when they have never met her before. It is obvious they only lust after her appearance, and quite frankly, it disgusts her. Sia, however, finds it amusing. To her, it is not strange that someone would fall for Si-song instantly. In Sia's eyes, Si-song is simply too guarded against men. Si-song blushes slightly at the comment. She mumbles that she isn't afraid, recalling how the students at the Academy Wars dubbed her the Ice Princess. Yet, she understands why Si-song maintains her walls. Changing the subject, she asks what Si-song has been up to lately. Si-song whispers that it is a top secret, strictly between them. She pours her heart out, and by the end, she is beaming. She feels a weight lift off her shoulders, grateful to have a friend who listens without judgment or interruption. They exchange warm goodbyes, and Sia reminds her to text once she gets home. But later, a thought strikes Sia. She remembers making Si-song promise not to breathe a word of this to anyone else, and panic begins to race through her mind. She knew the first person who deserved to hear this news was her brother back home. Han couldn't help but wonder what exactly his little sister was so desperate to reveal. He recalled how she dragged him to the nearest capsule cafe, leaning in to whisper, but the risk of prying ears was too high. She bolted back to the safety of their home for total privacy. He handed her a glass of water, as she groaned about being absolutely drained of energy. She began to explain that this information was top secret, and truthfully, she never imagined stumbling upon such critical intel from her own friend. She kept it brief. The world believes the absolute evil is fated to wage war against the constellations in solitude, but that is a lie. There is a pure class destined to serve him. Her longtime bestie just triggered the quest to become his loyal vassal. She is known as the absolute necromancer. When she finally finished her story, Han instantly grasped the gravity of the situation. However, anxiety gnawed at him. Was it safe for Si-song to be spilling such dangerous secrets? He questioned if he should even be listening to this. His sister clarified that Si-song shared it because they are basically soulmates bonded by fate. Besides, she insisted he deserved to know, considering he is the freaking absolute evil himself. Han froze solid, a mix of nerves and embarrassment washing over him. What on earth was she babbling about? But she already knew the truth behind his identity. She was simply waiting for him to confess it on his own terms. To her, the signs were blindingly obvious. He vanished for 20 long years, to train in some hellish dimension, and now, wherever he walks, abyss monsters materialize from thin air. His strength is nonsensical for his level, and his chaotic alignment is completely maxed out. When the system announced the birth of absolute evil, his stats broke the charts. And on top of that, she ascended as the 7th constellation just by trying to smack some sense into him. She argued it would be downright moronic if he wasn't the absolute evil. She understood his caution, but a small part of her felt betrayed by the silence. Han knew he had lost this round. He dropped the innocent act, and admitted she had seen right through him. He knew she would catch on eventually, but she just thought, he looked like a total clown, pretending to be clueless. She quickly reassured him that she hadn't breathed a word to her friend about his identity as the absolute evil, nor did she reveal her status as a constellation. But she reminded Han of a grim reality. If their true identities are exposed, it is game over for both of them. Han nodded, acknowledging the danger. While Sia mused about meeting Si-song properly one day to reveal the truth, Han realized he had gained a trump card. He does not have to face the wrath of the constellations alone. Now, he just needed to figure out how to utilize this piece. The next day, high atop Lepnia Mountain, Han recalled his sister's words, mentioning her friend is only 19, yet already mastering necromancy. The girl abandoned the academy and sits at a humble level 14. She even gifted him a mask to conceal his identity, knowing he is a fugitive hunted by both the Empire and the Union. He knew he must remain vigilant to prevent any leaks. His mind drifted to this 19-year-old necromancer. Could she be the same shadowy figure he encountered before? Rufendal is level 50. A level 14 novice shouldn't be able to command him. Perhaps it was a hidden class? No, that still seemed impossible. Han finally arrived to meet his sister and her companion, deep within the jungle. Si-song locked eyes with Han, and he froze. In an instant, they both realized they had met before. Song stood there, absolutely thunderstruck. She blurted out Big Bro as her eyes welled up with happy tears. He awkwardly told her not to call her savior Big Bro, but whatever. Song turned beet red when Han pointed out she was actually a girl, even though during their last encounter, her voice sounded completely masculine. She stammered, explaining she only used that tone because she thought necromancers had to act tough and scary. But now, the cringe was unbearable. Meanwhile, Sia was shocked. Han already knew her. He shrugs, claiming their paths crossed by mere chance. Song feels this is unreal. Surely it was destiny. Sia had previously mentioned that Han was deeply connected to the absolute evil. Song began to wonder, is he the absolute evil himself? She turned to Sia for answers. Han decided to end the charade, introducing himself bluntly as the absolute evil. Sia then dropped the bomb that she is his sister and the seventh constellation. The revelation hit Song like a runaway freight train. She stood frozen like a statue before erupting into a scream, demanding to know why Sia had hidden such massive secrets. She couldn't process why her friend was suddenly spilling everything now. Sia apologized profusely, explaining that her brother deserved his privacy before she could trust anyone else with the truth. She was only revealing it now because her trust in Song was absolute. Suddenly, it clicked. Han is her best friend's older brother. She started trembling, lamenting that she should have worn a cuter outfit today. Sia rolled her eyes hard, annoyed that her friend was stressing over something so trivial. Song burst into tears like a child, promising Han she wasn't usually this pathetic. Han decided to just take her word for it. He remembered his sister calling Song a goddess, but to him, she was just a kid. Han cut straight to the chase, dismissing the drama. None of that mattered right now, he reminded her. She revealed her destiny, a quest to serve the absolute evil itself, as Song nodded solemnly and handed him a scroll left behind by her master. He unfurled the parchment, revealing a map of unknown origins. But suddenly, a specific detail locked his gaze, and his expression darkened instantly. Memories of his hellish training days flooded back. Just when he was drowning in blood and sweat, that demonic old man had summoned him. He had been pushed to the brink of death back then, yet his master claimed he had a revelation of earth-shattering importance to share. Now, staring at the map, his mind raced at lightning speed. Every stroke of ink, every coordinate, perfectly mirrored the legacy his master had entrusted to him. One look was all it took. This was undeniably linked to the absolute evil, screaming of legendary quest materials for the heaven-shattering ghost art. But the clincher was the emblem etched in the corner. There was no mistaking that crest. It was the sigil of the heaven-shattering ghost, Art's the Black Flame, and his master had once declared that this mark would define his very existence. It was his identity, his burden, and he knew deep in his bones that this map finding its way to him was no mere coincidence. It stood to reason that other chosen players must have triggered S rank quests out there in the world. If they were all tied to the absolute evil, it made sense. No single warrior could hope to challenge a constellation alone and survive. Anyone sworn to serve the absolute evil would be crushed if they faced it head-on. And as the gears turned in his mind, he silently assembled the puzzle. Song's voice broke his concentration, asking what weighed on his mind, but he simply handed the map back with a nonchalant shrug. The pieces had fallen into place. It seemed he really had transformed into the absolute evil, but for now, action took precedence over contemplation. When she asked for their next destination, he recalled a crucial detail from Song was still stuck at a measly level 14. Priorities first, they needed to power level her immediately. And so, a few relentless days of grinding blurred past. Sia unleashed a torrent of lightning, frying a giant black bear to a crisp, while Song watched with stars in her eyes, utterly mesmerized. She was in awe of her friend's devastating power, while behind them, Rufendal leveled up, wondering when he had last heard that sweet notification sound. Han caught him spacing out and shot him a glare, asking what he was doing, and Rufendal snapped back to reality in a heartbeat. Head bowed, he scrambled to collect the loot like a loyal hound, gathering blue stones and offering them to Han with trembling hands. He looked at Han as if witnessing a deity, and Han decided to show mercy, unaware that Rufendal was silently weeping over how low he had fallen, reduced to a glorious fetch quest puppy. Yet he couldn't deny the terrifying reality Han's powers were broken, from healing to buffing. Insane experience boosts and guaranteed loot drops were part of the package, and terrifyingly, Rufendal began to feel disgustingly satisfied with this servant life, before he mentally slapped himself. Damn it, where was his dignity? Meanwhile, Han checked Song's progress. She had hit level 19, so as the hunt continued, he observed her, lost in thought. An absolute necromancer, a hidden class specifically designed to support the absolute evil. Her potential was limitless. Sia asked if she had been grinding solo, and Song blushed, admitting quietly that she had been alone all this time. She confessed she was terrible at skill control, and Han watched her fumble, noting her clumsy exterior. She claimed to be useless in combat, but his eyes saw the truth. It was merely a veil hiding her monstrous latent talent. She summoned a legion of skeletons, and Han noted instantly that her undead were leagues above the brittle trash typical necromancers dragged around. She cooed over them, finding them adorable, and Han figured, necromancers must have a few screws loose to find rotting bones cute. It was honestly unsettling, but more importantly, her summon capacity and magical output were on a dimension of their own. Compared to standard casters, she was an anomaly, but right now, Han was in a precarious spot requiring extreme caution. The Empire's elders were pinned down for now. But that didn't mean he couldn't recruit a few elite players to his cause. If push came to shove, he'd need the manpower, and on command, her skeleton squad swarmed a black bear. They tore the beast apart with merciless, mechanical efficiency. Sisong was rapidly shaping up to be his strongest piece on the chessboard. While the girls cheered over the victory, Han analyzed the situation, noting that Sisong's current quest trajectory aligned perfectly with his own. Both paths led to the same ancient ruins, and remembering that this quest came from his hellspawn of a master meant the difficulty would be nightmare tier at minimum. Just thinking about that old man sent a cold shiver crawling down his spine. God only knew what catastrophes awaited, and attempting this suicide mission alone would have been madness. All things considered, it was a relief she agreed to the party. For once, his wretched luck hadn't completely abandoned him. Suddenly, she snuck up and tackled him in a hug like an excited child, screaming that she had finally hit level 20. Rufendal burst out laughing, realizing Han had flinched as if ambushed by a boss monster, leaving the protagonist genuinely stunned. It was the first time he'd seen her drop her guard like this. She beamed, telling him her growth was all thanks to him, her gratitude overflowing. He was happy for her, sure, but he warned her to back off. If his combat reflexes had kicked in, she would have been pasted across the pavement. Han turned his cold gaze toward Rufendal. "Hey pet, why are you idling?" Rufendal flinched in terror. He scrambled to collect the spoils of war. Sisong has reached level 20. It is time to advance our mission. Destination: the Cargonis Mountains of Lunia. He instructed his sister and Sisong. "We are currently unobserved. Take the Imperial Warp Gate. Scout ahead for intelligence." As for him and Rufendal, their status was maximum chaotic. "We must utilize a warp controlled by the Alliance." The girls nodded and vanished. But Rufendal hesitated. Rufendal voiced his concern. "Will they be safe?" Han scoffed. "Of course not. But this is our only path." Speed was of the essence. Airships and blimps were cheap, but moved at a snail's pace. Who knew what calamities awaited on the road? Even if it cost a fortune, the warp was the only logical choice. Alliance-managed gates were affordable. However, their scarcity made them a rare luxury. Maximum chaotic status was a curse. Most portals denied them entry, as the Alliance held an iron grip on travel. The Great Alliance thrived on monopoly. Meanwhile, a subordinate called out, "Captain, you need to see this." "What is it?" the captain demanded. Two maximum chaotic players just materialized. He rose instantly. "Get back inside." A greedy smirk twisted his lips. Big fish had entered his net. This was Captain Ib, the portal manager. Rufendal prayed to the gods for safety. Han remained calm, knowing player kill was disabled in this safe zone. The captain strutted forward with swagger. "This gate leads directly to the Cargonis Mountains. I hope your pockets are heavy with gold." Then, he saw their crimson status markers. His eyebrows shot up. He squinted. The blue-haired one that was Rufendal. The other must be a mere servant. Rufendal activated the script. He puffed out his chest. "I merely dragged this baggage along to carry my loot." It was all part of Han's master plan. Rufendal played the role of the senior master perfectly. Captain Ib chuckled darkly. Why bring such a useless underling? Han looked like a clueless rookie. Rufendal's eye twitched as he barked. "Whether my pet is trash or a noob is none of your concern," the captain shrugged. "Just remember, standard rates do not apply to criminals. 13 million gold, per person." Rufendal gagged. "That is highway robbery," the captain sneered. "Too poor? Then leave. Go use the cheap Imperial Gate." "Oh, wait. Filthy criminals like you are banned there." He leaned in. "What will you do now?" Rufendal ground his teeth, feigning helplessness. The captain knew he had them cornered. Rufendal hissed. "You speak of millions as if it were pocket change." The captain ignored him, shifting his gaze to Han. He could squeeze even more out of them. While Rufendal continued his noisy protest, Han received a system notification. A private whisper. It was from the captain himself. "You must be tired of living as a lowly pet," the message read. "I do not care about your past, but obey me, and I will save you." Han's lips curled upward. This was exactly what he had anticipated. Internally, Han cackled like a true demon lord. This fool had walked right into the spider's web. But outwardly, he transformed instantly. Tears welled up in his eyes as he put on a pathetic display. Please, I will do anything to escape this hell. Meanwhile, Si-Song and Se-Ah materialized at the Cargonis Mountains. These warps are frighteningly efficient, Si-Song mused. Si-Ah agreed with a radiant smile, but Si-Song's face fell, her thoughts drifting back to Han. Private gatekeepers bleed criminals dry, she whispered. She had heard the horror stories. They betray their clients for sport. Se-Ah waved a hand dismissively. Please, Han would snap the wrist of any fool, stupid enough to cross him. Si-Song had to admit, that sounded accurate, though she wondered if calling him old man was wise. Suddenly, tears bubbled up. But no matter how I look at this map, she sobbed, I have no idea where we are. Se-Ah chuckled softly. Don't worry, I know the way. Back at the portal, Han analyzed Captain Ib, level 40. Maybe. Pathetic stats for a captain of the mighty Ellen Alliance. He only held this lucrative position because of blood. His aunt sat on the board of directors. His life had been one long victory lap. Since joining Ellen, he had never faced a true challenge. Titles were handed to him. Promotions were gifts. The easy life of the Golden Spoon class. The captain actually believes his skills are top tier? Han watches the fool with a predator's gaze, amused by such hopeless naivety. He is swallowing the bait, hook, line, and sinker. So Han decides to dance to his tune. The captain clearly sees him as nothing more than a clueless novice, completely blind to the hell awaiting him. Han scoffs internally. The man's greed is so transparent, it is almost comedic. A sly smirk tugs at Han's lips. He leans in, whispering to Rufendal that Captain Braindead has already tried to bribe him, to stab his own ally in the back. Rufendal feigns shock, playing the part of the clueless victim perfectly for now. They would scheme properly once they were safe on the raft, so Rufendal keeps his composure. He turns to Han, demanding 6 million gold, and Han complies without a word. Rufendal barks at him for the delay, though internally, he is trembling like a leaf before a storm. Their Oscar-worthy performance works like a charm. They secure the raft and drift toward the perilous northern Cargonos Mountains. The moment they leave the safe zone, the trap springs. Han spots the captain's crew stalking them. The order comes barking out. Attack Rufendal now. Han whispers a quick warning to brace for impact. He activates his iron skin, counting on Rufendal to sell the betrayal with righteous fury. While Rufendal silently prays to every god that this won't kill him, Han drives a heavy fist straight into his gut. Boom! The skill nullifies the impact completely. Rufendal screams internally in terror but projects pure rage on the outside, launching a counterpunch. Han plays the role of the rebellious servant perfectly, and suddenly, the two are locked in a chaotic brawl. Amidst the scuffle, the captain roars to his minions, "Cast Dispel Magic. Don't let them blink or escape." The spell locks them down, and the henchmen dive in like vultures. Han steps back, watching the spectacle from the sidelines, amused that it takes 5 grown men to gang up on one target. But then, the captain slithers behind Han like a snake, assuming Han is just a walking inventory holding the 6 million gold he handed over earlier. A perfect loot piñata. It is exactly what they wanted. Greed consuming him, the captain draws his blade and charges straight for the kill. He is convinced this chaotic player will drop massive loot. He just hopes Han doesn't die from a single tap of his blade after he finishes off the other guy. But Han spins around, a devilish grin on his face. Wham! He decks the captain square in the jaw. The captain's eyes bulge in disbelief. He barely scrambles back in time to survive. His mind races. This is insanity. How does a support character pack such a devastating punch? Is he a secret fighter class? But no, his stamina isn't draining the way a combatant should. And there are 0 debuff notifications. He frantically calculates, did this lunatic dump every single stat point into agility? That is the only logical explanation. Meanwhile, Han casually checks his system settings and realizes, oops, he didn't even mean to hold back that much power. It was just a reflex. The captain eBay spews insults, screaming that he is a worm. Han just stares at him with cold, bored eyes, asking, what are you even barking about? You attacked first. And while they chat, Rufendal annihilates the entire squad. He casually grabs a player and hurls him like a ragdoll straight at the captain, leaving the man completely dumbfounded. His brain short-circuits. Was his intel total garbage? Even Rufendal's strength is monstrous. His remaining henchmen shriek in terror, realizing they have been played and need to flee. But Rufendal, grinning like a bloodthirsty demon, crushes them with brutal efficiency. Even he can't wrap his head around it. How did he mow them down like dry grass? It has to be Han's god-tier buffs. A wave of gratitude washes over him. He could honestly spend the rest of his life scrubbing Han's feet without a single complaint. He snaps back to reality, noticing Han is still toying with the captain. Rufendal wonders why the prey is still breathing. Han shrugs nonchalantly. If I kill him now, no loot drops. My luck stat is sitting at a tragic -99. Meanwhile, eBay's mind spirals into madness, trying to decode their sinister plot. Rufendal steps forward, his murderous glare silencing the fool instantly. Han gives the signal. Squeeze him for every last copper. Han commands while keeping watch. Rufendal obeys instantly, leaning in to whisper, Is your life, really, worth a measly 6 million gold? Deep down, Rufendal knows this is his golden moment to prove his loyalty to the boss. eBay's voice cracks, tears streaming down his face. He offers 7 million, then panics, screaming, 100 million gold. Han remains stone cold, nudging Rufendal to push for 130. Desperate to look reliable, Rufendal unleashes a terrifying aura, reminding the trembling captain that the price of betrayal has gone up. For the mental trauma you caused us, he demands, 130 million is fair compensation. eBay is shaking so violently, he would agree to anything. Okay, 130 million. Just let me get to the safe zone first. Rufendal scoffs at the desperate plea. Obviously, eBay remains blissfully ignorant of the abyss he stands upon. But a single sentence shatters his delusion like glass. Panic takes the wheel as he pays the price and scrambles to flee. Han simply watches. His gaze is cold, observing the vermin trying to scurry away. The captain's mind races with venomous thoughts of vengeance for this disgrace. He swears to return once he escapes with his life, but Han knows this filth all too well. Merciless judgment is required. In Han's eyes, only one punishment fits the crime: a death sentence. He decides to end this farce right here and now. Rufendal explodes into action like a beast unchained. He roars about becoming the apostle of justice. The captain begs for mercy, but the Reaper has already arrived. Rufendal grins wickedly. He prays his prey can survive at least one strike, just to keep things entertaining. This ruthlessness is exactly why he adores his master. Asterisk. Boom. Asterisk. With a single devastating blow, he crushes the captain like a bug. He sighs, disappointed by the fragile weakness of his opponent. As the enemy weeps over his scattered fortune, Rufendal feels touched by grace. He begins looting everything in sight with fanatical devotion. Desperate, the captain offers a staggering 1 billion gold for a single item. But Rufendal ignores the plea. He notices the object carries an unusual, heavy weight in his hands. The screams of 1 billion gold offer echo in the air. Yet, he doesn't miss a beat, leaving the fool in a stunned, silent void. Ibe screams, demanding to know if he grasps the treasure's true value. But Rufendal couldn't care less. His only purpose is to present the spoils to his lord. He dumps the massive haul at the feet of the master he idolizes. He casually mentions the captain was willing to pay 1 billion gold just to reclaim one specific artifact. Han sifts through the loot with practiced ease, but the moment his gaze locks onto that times item, his mind comes to a screeching halt. Han and Rufendal lean in, inspecting the mysterious pouch. Rufendal's face twists into a knot of confusion. It's as if he's staring at an alien object. Meanwhile, Han's gears are turning. He senses an ominous aura. This is an artifact from the second round. Something that players are apparently willing to sacrifice an empire's wealth to possess. Yet, it looks so ordinary. He pops the seal. The system window flashes its contents. A single steel gauntlet, a taming ring, and a mountain of 500 million gold. Even combined, it hardly screams 1 billion in value. Han suspects hidden attributes or smuggled goods, but after a moment of calculation, he decides it's a waste of mental energy. Han turns to his subordinate with a casual, life-changing proposal. 3 million gold. If Rufendal signs the contract as his pet, Rufendal looks as if the heavens have opened up. He swears eternal allegiance with theatrical flair. Grinning like a madman, he declares he will remain in Runia, to grind levels until he ascends. This territory belongs to him now. Meanwhile, high atop Mount Runia, Sia spots an approaching figure. It is her brother. Han nods, relieved to see the team assembled in one piece. Sisong notes that Sia led the group with flawless precision. Han investigates for anomalies. Sisong reports that the local NPCs are trembling with rumors. A beast of catastrophic power has appeared in the region. It appears sporadically. A renowned NPC hunter has already fallen victim. An entire level 50 party was annihilated in an instant. While attempting the quest, Han frowns. No such information exists on Olympus Mania or the public forums. Sisong looks at him, eyes shimmering with hope. Can you defeat it? 3 days later, Han, Sia, and Sisong arrive at Carganis Mountain. Immediately, they collide with a ferocious beast. Song unleashes her necromantic arts mid-battle. Level up. She hits 23. Sia, now standing strong at level 33, glances at her brother. She admits his buffs are nothing short of god tier. She finally understands why players fear this mountain. Survival here is a living nightmare, Han agrees. Even he didn't anticipate this hellish spike in difficulty. He praises their resilience in the face of danger. But as Song begins to raise the monster's corpse as a dark servant, Han shoots her a concerned look. Won't this constant summoning deplete your mana? She waves it off with a confident smile. Her mana reserves are bottomless. She reveals a legion of undead waiting in the shadows. The larger the army, the stronger they become. Han scans the horde. Easily over 200 souls, he mutters, genuinely impressed by her growth. Suddenly, Song announces their arrival. A colossal cliff pierces the sky before them, blocking all progress. Han squints suspiciously. Do you even know how to read a map? Song remains completely unfazed. We are exactly where destiny intends us to be. Sia looks up nervously. Do we really have to scale this titan? Han suggests flight magic as a shortcut, but Sia reminds him of the zone's cruel laws. All flight spells are sealed within this domain. As they stare up at the impossible height, Song points to a speck at the summit. At first, Han sees only empty sky. Then, his eyes lock on target. A massive shadow. A giant eagle, Karya, the apex predator of Protagonist Mountain. The beast has evolved, gorging itself on magical monster stones. At some point, Karya realized the truth. Humans carry the shiniest treasures of all. Now, it hunts with an obsession for loot. Han orders the team to hold their ground. Karya lets out a screech, but bizarrely it sounds like a chicken squawking. The sound triggers a memory of an item he recently acquired. But just as he reaches for his inventory, Karya dives from the heavens and snatches him into the sky. Sia and Song scream his name in pure panic as he dangles helplessly. But locking eyes with the beast, Han notices something. That arrogance in Karya's eyes. It was mocking him. A surge of irritation boils over. No overgrown chicken looks down on him. He triggers the heavy impact fist. The system chimes. 50% damage dealt. The eagle releases its grip instantly. But Han isn't falling. He seizes the claw with an iron grip, refusing to let go. Now standing on the beast's back, he forces a screech of agony from its throat. Han delivers a cold ultimatum. Submit as his pet, or die. Then he unleashes the steel gauntlet, the artifact that doubles all pain. He lands a devastating blow. The system flashes red, 80% damage inflicted. While the party watches in awe from below, a new notification pops up. The system suggests a hidden item, the Ring of the Tamer. He slips it on his finger immediately. The ring's unique skill activates, a power usually reserved for the elite beast masters. His overwhelming intelligence stat grants a massive bonus to the roll. The mighty Karya begins to submit. To seal the soul pact, it demands a name. Scrolling through the interface, Han scoffs. Who said taming beasts was hard? Sia raises a skeptical eyebrow. Do you actually possess the taming skill? Han simply shakes his head. Just good gear, he admits shamelessly. Song smirks, teasing that relying on items isn't true mastery. The system reveals the stats. It is an S-class pet. But there is a catch. It consumes monster stones and gold. It is a literal bottomless pit for money. Han freezes, his wallet trembling in fear. Yet, an S-class beast fusion is a treasure beyond price. He produces a heavy pouch of gold. The bird's eyes sparkle with the greed of a dragon. Han realizes this isn't just instinct. This cunning beast was feigning ignorance. Han promises that if it obeys, every treasure in the world will be theirs. The bribe works. The system confirms. Taming complete. With a grin, Han bestows the name. K. Coco. Song is impressed, though Sia questions his materialistic methods. But moments later, they soar into the sky on K. Coco's back. Sia and Song stare wide-eyed at the blurring landscape below. Checking his minimap, Han calculates their trajectory. We should be at the entrance, he mutters. Sia suggests a collision might trigger the hidden mechanism. Han admits his mining skill is non-existent. Worse, an invisible barrier is blocking further flight. Song notes that other squads failed here. They only received the dreaded not qualified notification. Hold on tight, Han commands. He drives the bird straight toward the cliff face. His insane plan? To leap from the mount mid-flight. Impact. He slams his fist against the cold stone surface. Instantly, the system flares with blinding light. It detects the aura of the heaven-shattering ghost art. But a grim message blocks the way. The gate to the Cliff of Time remains sealed. The requirement: sacrifice 200 Protagonist Mountain monsters. Time limit: 5 minutes. Han stands on the precipice, stunned. His mind races as the gravity of the quest crushes down. Without 200 souls to offer, in 5 minutes, the cliff will collapse. And beneath it lies the glass prison of absolute evil. The absolute necromancer waits to be unleashed. Han's gaze shifts to Si-Song, then down to her army of undead. He asks the difficult question, "Is your legion near 200? Si-Song answers flatly, 286, to be exact. 200 or all of them, it doesn't matter. But before he can finish, Si-Song cuts him off with ice in her voice. "Those are my children," she declares. Han stares back, his eyes unflinching. "Children? Can you truly converse with the dead?" Her voice softens, trembling slightly. They scream that they don't want to be discarded. Her hesitation strikes him odd. This is not the ruthless commander he knows. She isn't one for sentimentality. Yet, her resolve is cracking. Han recalls the prophecy of her master. "We walk the same path of carnage," he reminds her sternly. "You are destined to rule over legions. You answer to no one but yourself. And this sacrifice, it is merely the beginning. Hesitate now, and we lose everything." Si-Song lowers her head, whispering that she understands. But, to slaughter her own loyal army? Even with her immense power, the guilt is a physical weight. Hunting wild monsters is impossible with the time limit. Yet her soul screams in rejection. Sia's voice cuts through the suffocating air, calling to her brother. Han observes Si-Song closely. Has the necromancer class warped her psyche? Is the connection to the dead making her too human? Or is it something deeper? Sia insists there is no other option. Han turns to the necromancer one last time. "Choose. Make the offering and walk with me towards destiny. Or walk away and follow your own path alone." Silence stretches for an eternity. Finally, Si-Song nods. "I will stay with you." She declares her true name, Mary Ann, the absolute necromancer, and the ancient chant begins. The sacrificial rite commences. 200 of her undead minions dissolve into the void as Si-Song stands atop Coco's massive form. Her body quakes violently as the ritual extends, the very air around her warping with the stench of foul, rotting mana. It is a miasma heavy enough to suffocate. One by one, the army she raised crumbles, disintegrating into swirling black dust. They pile at her feet, each death feeling like a fragment of her own soul being ripped away, until the system windows flash open. 200 is the standard median for a sacrifice, but Si-Song's metrics are defying all logic. Han, watching from a distance, senses the danger. He can feel the crushing spiritual pressure weighing on her, he mutters, wondering if this is the terrible backlash of her class. Instinct takes over. He instantly casts a low-level heal. If he hesitates, the mana drain might just shatter her body completely. But Si-Song shakes her head, whispering through the pain that she must endure this trial. Suddenly, she feels a fundamental shift within. Her knees almost give way, but she refuses to fall. She teeters on the edge of consciousness, her body staggering under the load. She is trapped between the immense power she has gained and the pieces of herself she sacrificed. Han and Seiya rush toward her. Panic is written all over their faces. Even with 20 years of hellish training, they are powerless to help her now. The battle with the Sky Devil, the bitter defeats, and the silent victories, everything has led them to this singular moment. Olympus has always been one giant, rigged setup. Yet, Si-Song has never once considered fleeing from her destiny. Han knows Olympus is a game, and he is confident he can crush this challenge. But the unknown abyss that lies beyond still lingers. He turns to Sia, his gaze intense. "Are you with me as my helper?" Without a word, she nods. She has recorded every step of his legend so far. She isn't stopping now. Han then looks to Si-Song for confirmation. She gives her consent as well. Finally, his eyes land on the massive beast, Coco, who lets out a guttural grunt of agreement. Han tosses a small object to the beast. "Eat up." That single morsel alone is worth a staggering 8 million gold. Coco's eyes blaze with greed as he devours it whole. Instantly, a system chime rings out. Han has been officially acknowledged. He is deemed worthy to access the inheritance of Kelt. A trial gate, bound to the ancient legacy, manifests before them. The system demands a choice. Enter or leave. Han weighs the risks, his curiosity burning brighter than fear, and accepts. The choice is locked in. But while they step into the unknown, far away from the cliff's chaos, another scene unfolds. In a sterile management office, a man barks into his phone, frantically trying to smooth over a disaster. But the voice on the other end is cold. They warned him about his greed. One more screw-up like this, and there will be no one left to bail him out. Young Un, the management lead, stands with crossed arms, forcing him to swear on his life that this failure won't be repeated. He ends the call and collapses into his chair, defeated. "I've been royally screwed," he mutters, analyzing where it all went wrong. His mind races to Lupin Dahl and that wretched, sickly brat tagging along with the target. How could he have known? That unassuming kid was hiding the legendary Rampadian power all along. But wait, this isn't a disaster. It's an opportunity. Whoever crossed him has messed with the absolute wrong predator. His kill quest is already live, and over 700 hunters have taken the bait. Suddenly, his phone buzzes again. Byung-un frowns. "Another call already?" he answers, demanding a status report. But the voice on the line brings unexpected news. They have spotted the Rampadian bounty on the board. Byung-un confirms it is his doing, but the caller drops a massive bombshell. "We have just ascended. We are now the first constellation." The manager freezes, blood running cold. "Are you serious?" It was pure luck, but they are ready to aid Yoon's revenge. Just as the pact is sealed, a system alert rings out for Han. Space warps. Han is violently yanked into a new dimension, a landscape that writhes and shifts as if it were alive. He realizes instantly his team is gone. Scattered. A brief flicker of anxiety sparks in his chest. He crushes the fear instantly. From the sky, a monstrous three-legged crow dives, its aura suffocating and heavy with death. Han doesn't even blink. One slash. The beast crumples like wet paper before his overwhelming might. The system pings. Hunt complete. 90,000 gold secured. His experience bar slams all the way to the limit. Yet, Han stands frozen. That crow, it was too weak. The sensation drags his mind back to the brutal days of training with his master and Reyna. Back when every swing of the sword felt like his final breath. He can still hear that voice, cutting through his agony like a blade. Survive, rise, rule. Looking back, he realizes those hellish lessons were never about mere survival. They were forging him into something far more terrifying. The perfect embodiment of absolute evil. A system notification breaks his trance. No step-up points required. A twisted smile forms. The path to the top just became a whole lot smoother. His level climbs to 50. Somewhere else, Sia is tearing through enemies like a goddess of war, lightning crackling across the battlefield. Every strike annihilates another wave of monsters. System windows cascade like rainbats hunted. Kills, confirmed in the heat of combat. Her magic twists, evolving into a nastier, more refined calamity. Meanwhile, on another front within the abyssal depths of Kelt, armored knights emerge. Si-Song's magic shifts, darker and more ruthless, reaping their souls with cold, mechanical precision. The system tallies her harvest, and then, like an eerie ripple in reality, death itself begins to bend to her will. Pitch-black energy surges beneath her feet, dragging the fallen back into motion. Skeletal warriors in battered armor claw their way out of the grave. They chant in perfect sync, kneeling to swear eternal loyalty under her new title, Marion Lim. A split second later, they undergo a metamorphosis. No longer simple undead, but death knights. Si-Seong blinks, feeling the crushing weight of the name it carries, an ancient, old-world power. A power she never expected. Elsewhere, Coco is busy reducing massive venomous earthworms to absolutely nothing but pulp. Amid the carnage, he discovers a strange blue stone. Driven by instinct, he devours it without hesitation, and the system instantly responds. Confirming that his personal arrangement sequence is complete, the entire field of battle shifts once again. In the blink of an eye, the party is pulled back together. Han scans the group. Miraculously, nobody looks worse for wear. Both Sia and Si-Song share the same update. Massive level jumps. Han figures his stats have spiked explosively too. Suddenly, the ground quivers, and a deep, guttural rumble rolls through the earth. As the system proclaims that Kelt's main gate is finally open, Han warns the group to stay sharp and ready for anything. But before they can even formulate a plan, a voice breaks through the silence, a voice he knows all too well. A shimmering projection manifests. It takes the shape of his deceased master. Even as a hologram, the presence feels suffocatingly real. The figure praises Han's monstrous growth, tying every ounce of his current power back to those hellish years of training. He even credits Han for fueling the Sky Devil's army, hinting that Han's path might end with him conquering an entire continent. The system chimes again, interrupting the moment. An update for the Absolute Evil Man quest. Suddenly, things click in Han's mind, his ominous title. The Triple S grade quest. The cruel lessons his master drilled into his very bones, it was all one grand, orchestrated setup. All leading to the Empire's destruction and a future ruled under the Sky Devil's shadow. The hologram's final words are cryptic. Something about a pure soul, who once recognizing Han, will grant him command over death itself. Han barely has time to process the revelation. The projection shatters and vanishes into the void. Another system message drops. Kelt's legacy has been cleared. The absolute necromancer's presence has sealed the final requirement. With the ordeal finally over, Sisong lets out a casual remark about how short the trial felt. Han nods in agreement. Sia, on the other hand, is grinning. After all, they worked together to drag Sisong to a place she could never have reached solo. Han stays silent, but he knows the truth. If he had gone in alone, he would still be stuck in that nightmare. The rewards phase rolls in. The system dishes out 2 step-up points, 20 extra stat points, and a single redstone. Han eyes the redstone, knowing its price on the open market is astronomical. With that kind of payout, money problems aren't just solved, they're oblivious. Sia gets one too, and her excitement is instant and loud. Han keeps his thoughts guarded. She can have it. Sisong checks the item, confirms it is legit, and then shares her own loot, a step-up point, and a broken skill called Unlimited Mana. It slashes the cost of undead summoning in half, and with upgrades, reduces it to 0. No cap. Sia congratulates her, throwing out the idea of celebrating with a feast. Han, though, can't shake the terrifying implications. Sisong, with an army of undead that costs her nothing to maintain, that is a power that defies logic. While they converse, Bok Bok suddenly starts glowing. The system announces it. His grade has jumped. Evolution complete. His new title, Korea. His level rockets to 73, with a class jump from grade 5 to 55. Han just stares for a second, half surprised, half impressed. That must be his cut for helping clear the gate. Han shifts focus back to his own status window. Pulling up his stats, only one attribute matters now: destruction. He pours everything into it, and the system roars back. Destruction has reached its true form, activating a dual destruction effect. The potential hits him like a physical gut punch. This is huge. Not far away, another story is unfolding. A group of bounty hunters is tracking their trail. They search every inch, but past a certain point, the trail just evaporates. The cliff's edge offers nothing. No footprints, no hint of movement. Kang Mu-sok, the Crimson Gladiator, steps forward and takes command. He is certain they are close. Before they can push on, the cliff face explodes outward. A monstrous, eagle-like beast erupts from the stone, carrying 3 riders on its back. The system pings without warning. Heavenbreaker Heart Arts has morphed into the true Heavenbreaker Heart Arts. The surge hits Han like a live wire. His speed jumps by 30%, and cooldown timers are sliced in half. Health and mana surged violently. His absolute evil points climbed to 3, while his charisma struck a perfect 10. Every single base stat leaped nearly 10 points higher. Sia, peeking over his shoulder, smirked with a mix of curiosity and sheer disbelief. Sisong shot him a look that screamed, "Are you already busted level strong?" Han didn't even bother to deny the power coursing through him. Sisong then asked the impossible. Had anyone ever broken 90? Sia dropped the bombshell casually. She had already smashed past 100 in some stats. That truth hit Han like a physical blow to the gut. Yeah, she was never your average player. But before the shock could settle, the system interrupted. Celt Legacy cleared. A final message sealed their fate. The true Heavenbreaker martial arts were now unlocked. But for absolute evil players, there was a kicker. 32 seconds to exit, or the hunt mode activates a nasty little death trap. They didn't waste a single heartbeat. They scaled down the cliff with surgical precision, landing the second their feet touched the earth. Sia exhaled sharply, quest complete. But in this world, silence is just a prelude to chaos. Sia's eyes narrowed, locking onto the slope. Armored figures lay in wait. Not random mobs, but bounty hunters. The Rampadian bounty was burning a hole in their pockets, and these guys were convinced Han was the jackpot, relentless, stubborn, and very much ready to claim his head. Before anyone could twitch, a shadow plummeted from the heavens. Kang Muzelk. His landing near Bok Bok sent a shockwave of dust flying. Sia's voice trembled, stammering about escape, but Kang cut her off, locking eyes with Han. His tone was absolute. The chase ends right here. He called Han Rumtadian like it was a fact carved in granite. Han's voice dropped an octave, deadly calm. He signaled Luna and Marion to vanish from sight. Kang's arrogance bled into every step as he floated closer, literally defying gravity. No doubt a gift from his constellation. A system notice blinked red. Scheme activated. The hunters fell silent. They knew exactly how grave this situation was. Kang didn't hide his identity. His title boomed across the battlefield. Red-flamed gladiator, Shin Song, a board member, and the first constellation. Fire wrapped around him like living armor. But this wasn't about capturing a fugitive anymore. It was a damn PR stunt to flex Shin Song's influence. Then, out of nowhere, Bok Bok lunged. His claws raked across the space. The beast shoved the constellation back. Bok Bok skidded, but held his ground at the cliff's edge, unshaken like a mountain. The hunters froze in terror. Did a mere pet just push back a constellation-level player? Kang muttered, clearly rattled, but Han wasn't about to let that slide. He mocked Kang mercilessly, chalking his power up to nothing but money and shiny gear. Kang's fury snapped. All talk of capture vanished. He vowed to burn everything to ash. His equipment roared in response, flames spreading over him like a second skin of hellfire. Sia offered to jump into the fray, but Han shut her down instantly. If the seventh constellation revealed herself, their cover was blown for good. Staying hidden was non-negotiable. Kang charged. Han didn't even blink. He cut straight through the wall of flames and threw a punch that shook the very atmosphere. The system whispered. 50% damage reduction applied. It didn't matter. The hit landed like a freight train. Kang's gear went into overdrive. The armor cracked but immediately triggered protective charms to save his life. Healing bursts exploded around him. One bounty hunter whispered in awe about the insane cost of that setup. Han? He wasn't impressed. He closed the distance, noting how Kang's entire playstyle was pay to win, gear over skill. Provoked beyond reason, Kang unleashed rampaging flame. The skill tore through the battlefield like a berserk wildfire. Han's health plummeted, but he refused to yield an inch. He signaled Bok Bok. No, Coco. It was time to use his true name. He ordered Coco to guard the others. The beast dipped his head, sharp and focused. Above, the sky glowed red, flames painting the clouds in blood. This wasn't a skirmish anymore. It was a full-blown spectacle. Meanwhile, in a polished office far removed from the dust and blood, Gu Chan-sung walked into the director's room after a sudden summons. The director's face was twisted in pure irritation. He barked about being treated like a corpse just because he had logged out. He ordered a total media blackout immediately. No leaks, no footage. Though he knew deep down, some clips were already slipping through the cracks. Staring out the window, he launched into a bitter rant about a broken world, where incompetence was rewarded with fame. While true strength was buried in the dirt, he spoke of an inevitable collapse, a reset that would strip away the weak. This generation, he sneered, will be the last to cling to such naive ideals. Back in the game, Han rode upon Coco's back. A rare flicker of genuine gratitude crossed his face. This time, Sia and Sisong weren't with them. Coco said nothing, already bracing to lead the way. His mind flashed back to the earlier fight. His wings scorched, the attacks relentless. But he hadn't stopped. Not when Han's voice cut through the chaos with those sharp, absolute commands. Coco made up his mind. From now on, he wouldn't just fight hard. He would listen, and he would follow his master to the end. They finally made it back to Skydiver HQ. Coco was surrounded by a bunch of kids patching him up, while Han slouched in his office chair, looking like he owned the place. Sir John stormed in and slammed a thick stack of reports on his desk, the silence shattering instantly. Han gazed at the supplies, his brow furrowing as the weight of leadership settled upon him. He asked if this was truly their grand strategy to survive the apocalyptic winter. Sir John gave a grave nod. The winters here are not merely cold. They are beasts that chew you up and spit you out if you are unprepared. Proper gear and heating are not optional. With 800 souls now sheltering under the Sky Devil banner, the math was brutal. They would need at least 8 million gold. Han's eyebrow rose in amusement. To think they had been plotting survival strategies before he even walked through the door, even though, technically, he was just an NPC coded into their narrative. Yet soon, they would be drafting blueprints for revolution and plotting financial empires. Like true professionals, Surgeon interjected sharply, pointing out their war chest. They held 4 billion gold, courtesy of Yorhan and the Veil's deep pockets. Spend whatever is necessary, Han commanded, though his chest gave a phantom tighten at the request. She was asking for 1.4 billion gold. He gave a stoic nod. As she turned to leave, a playful smirk touched her lips. I shall make sure every soul knows of your boundless generosity, my lord. With that, the loyalty of the Sky Devil crew soared to fanatical heights. Han remained unfazed. He had just ascended to level 50, and the hunting grounds were opening. The gold was about to flow like a river. Meanwhile, far away, inside a fortress of stone, the red-haired tyrant Yorhan sat in silence. Lexer, the third elder, arrived on the wind. Yorhan was not a man who summoned others for idle chatter. Curiosity gleamed in Lexer's eyes. He ventured a guess. Is this regarding the Absolute One? Yorhan confirmed it with a look. I sense the ghost energy radiating from him, Yorhan murmured. A power dense enough to crown him the next true master. The third elder agreed instantly. I bow to no weakling, Lexer growled. He reminded Yorhan that he had spent years forging the Black Floral Group with his own blood and sweat, just as you raised Murder Veil from the ashes. Yet even now, my Black Floral cannot hold a candle to your shadow, Yorhan. That imbalance gnawed at his pride. Yorhan's gaze sharpened. Do you truly believe you possess the strength to dethrone the master? Lexer cut in, his voice jagged with impatience. He knew the master's limits. The other elders felt the same, restless. We will not wait for eternity, Yorhan countered coldly. The master is not the man he once was. He has returned sharper, stronger. He now stands shoulder to shoulder with the elders. Even stripped of his gear, his raw power is undeniable. And crucially, he is the only one who can extract supplies from the outside. Lexer admitted, he has promised us gear for the winter. Still, Murdervale controls the capital, Yorhan clarified instantly. Those funds are not stolen, Elder. They are tribute, and the Master utilizes them solely for the glory of the Sky Devils. To the Master, I am merely a piece on a chessboard of gods. Yorhan commanded, patience, Lexer. Military funding will arrive. And when it does, we march toward our true target. Meanwhile, Han and Sia observed the shifting tides. Daily Olympus reported that Nova had begun a forbidden project to engineer monsters, using redstone and blackstone. If they succeeded, dungeons would become relics of the past. The catch? A mere 30% success rate. Sia scoffed. Insanity. Fabricating life like some twisted science project? The cost alone is a fortune. Han shrugged in agreement. She teased him, poking his arm. You are way too chill, especially for a man who just wiped out the first continent. Does it not irk you? Nova stealing the headlines? Han patted her head gently. It does not bother me. I have no desire to broadcast the name Absolute Evil to the world. If my opponents wish to spawn monsters, let them. No point wasting energy on envy. He warned her softly. If you wish to mingle, do not draw attention to yourself. Connect with other constellations. Hovering around me like a shadow only makes concealment impossible. Find your own path. She shot that down instantly. And miss out on your divine buffs? Never. I am not leaving. Han let it go, but his mind churned, circling back to Nova's project. Even with a 30% success rate, if the Sky Devils could seize just one successful specimen, they could stop scavenging for scraps. Where are we headed next? She asked. Han answered without hesitation. The sky-flowing river, a place where titanic beasts roamed freely. Elephants with ears like sails, hippos that launch cannon fire, and twin-headed gators lurking in the depths. Nova had locked the region down to monopolize the redstone flow. That was exactly why they brought Zeta with them. The Sixth Elder. A walking calamity, infamous for wide-area annihilation after unlocking True Heaven, Shackle, and the Ghost Art. Han was done hiding. The mantle of absolute evil would be worn openly. They reached the warp portal by the riverbank. Seasong, Sia, and Rufundel waited. Zeta lingered nearby, cloaked in invisibility. Han issued orders. Sia, remember, you are a constellation, not a mere player. He pointed to the elf. Rufundel and I take point. Seasong follows next. Sia, you move only on my signal. Suddenly, a Nova scout caught their silhouette. At first, he mistook them for Max Chaotic Squad. But then, the details hit him. The suffocating dark magic. Zero gear. A giant eagle circling the heavens. Reality crashed down on the scout. It is the Rumtadian. Panic seized him as he fired a message to HQ. The response made his jaw drop. Let the Rumtadian pass. Han walked forward, untouchable. The members of Nova scrambled to clear a path, warning each other to respect the boundaries lest they provoke the monster walking among them. Han raised a skeptical eyebrow at their sudden obedience, while Raphael muttered that news of his strength must have leaked. Han nodded in agreement. The footage of him utterly humiliating Kang had likely gone viral, granting even Sia and Seo Song a free pass by association. It all made sense now. As a director of the No Way Guild, anyone connected to Kang would have analyzed that disastrous clip 1,000 times. The realization annoyed Han, but his train of thought was cut short when a Nova grunt whispered into his comms, asking for new orders. The response from headquarters was curt. Maintain normal operations and handle things quietly. But the silence in the area felt suffocating. Sensing the ambush, Han deduced their numbers were thin and ordered Raphael to stay tight, knowing that regrouping in chaos would be their lifeline. Raphael nodded grimly, but the trap was already sprung. Kang and his assassins were watching from the darkness, eyes burning with malice. When the killing intent spiked, Kang launched his assault, but Han was already 5 steps ahead of the game. With a devilish smirk, Han calmly ordered Raphael to deploy his shield, treating the lethal attack like a minor inconvenience. He taunted that if they played this right, Raphael might even farm a few defensive buffs from the enemy's desperation. The ambush struck with lightning speed, but Han moved with the fluidity of a master. He didn't just react, he flowed into the battle. He barked at Raphael to manifest his barrier magic, promising to layer his own enhancements over it to create an impenetrable fortress. Kang screamed for his squad to tighten their formation and chain their stun skills, but Raphael's barrier materialized exactly when it mattered most. The tank grumbled that the blast radius was too massive for one man, but Han shot him a look of absolute confidence. He would carry the burden. Meanwhile, Seo Song stumbled forward through the chaotic haze, coughing as the thick smoke choked the battlefield. Desperate to understand the madness, Han shouted for her to retreat, warning that standing there was a one-way ticket to the afterlife. She froze, paralyzed by fear, before frantically waving for a ceasefire. The reality of the battle was pitiful compared to the legends. She had expected a clash of titans, but even the strike that was rumored to have once felled a constellation seemed lackluster. It barely scratched their defenses, and watching from the sidelines, the frustration of the Nova Guild leader reached its boiling point. He tried to rally his terrified troops, bellowing that anyone who dared defy Nova would pay with their blood. But his speech was cut short. Coco exploded from the shadows, slamming into him mid-sentence and silencing him permanently, while Sia crouched nearby. Waiting for the perfect opening, she whispered to Han, asking if the hunt was on, but he signaled for her to hold her position. Patience was a weapon, and the time wasn't right. Only when the dust began to settle did Han finally turn his attention to So Song. He checked her condition, and she reassured him with a shaky voice that, thanks to his intervention, she hadn't taken a single point of damage. Her expression hardened. She was done hiding and resolved to fight by his side as the group dismounted from Coco's massive back. The Nova members stared in horror, rattled to their core that the intruders had survived the initial bombardment without a single scratch. The fact that their perfect ambush had failed to dent their defenses made the soldiers uneasy, and whispers began to spread through the ranks. They speculated that perhaps these intruders were just like Raphael, walking fortresses with high defense but absolutely zero offensive power. Emboldened by this delusion, one soldier volunteered to crush the tank first, and the Nova leader instantly gave the kill order. Han glanced at Raphael, confirming the camera was rolling. With 70 enemies lined up for the slaughter, he reminded him to loot everything. Once the massacre began, Hatchet, one of Nova's arrogant muscleheads, strutted forward to spit his final challenge. He sneered that they were hopelessly outnumbered and outgeared, claiming their only option was to drop to their knees and surrender. He promised that if they begged Director Kang Musok for forgiveness, they might just escape total annihilation. Han looked unimpressed, calling out the hypocrisy of their so-called justice and mocking their pathetic attempts to play landlord. They hadn't built this world nor drawn a single map, yet they strutted around acting like they owned the very ground they stood on. He reminded them coldly that Kang Musuk was the one who struck first and died for it. Han's icy aura made Hatchet's bravado crumble. The enemy's confidence shattered as Han's mana flared. Enough talk. He summoned his undead army, and the earth split open as skeletons clawed their way to the surface. Seo Song wasted no time, weaving her reinforcement magic into the undead soldiers the second they stood upright. Han commanded the slaughter to begin, demanding Nova's leader step forward because Mercy had just left the building. Hatchet, still foolishly plotting to separate Han with crowd control items, never saw the true danger approaching. Han's fist connected with the center of his chest. No weapon, no skills, just the raw, apocalyptic force of a physical strike. Hatchet's eyes went wide, his brain unable to comprehend how his body had simply shut down before he collapsed to the floor. It was a baffling irony. Hatchet was a specialized tanker capable of shrugging off level 80 monsters, yet a single punch from Han wrecked him. Without missing a beat, Han ordered his undead legion to clean up the trash, leaving Nova's scouts frozen in terror as their strongest tank was one shot. Terror rippled through the ranks like a shockwave. The undead legion stood unbreakable, and panic began to infect the living. The director scoffed at the very idea of retreat. He arrogantly assumed the necromancer had exhausted his mana pool on that last flashy summon. He thought the tank was empty. But he failed to realize that Sesong's strategy wasn't about endurance. It was a tsunami of pure, overwhelming numbers. Nova's scouts screamed their warnings until their throats bled. Don't be fooled. Charge. Keep moving forward. Han showed no mercy. He commanded the Death Knights to butcher the front lines, while barking orders to his ally. Song, stay back. Protect yourself. She nodded, eyes widening as Han's aura suddenly twisted into something monstrous. System alert. The true heaven-shattering ghost art has been activated. Han's stats skyrocketed in a heartbeat. Attack power and range surged by 30%. Mana costs plummeted, and cooldown times were sliced in half. His mid-tier skill, White Slash, evolved instantly into True White Slash. He didn't hesitate. The blade tore through the soldiers like wet paper. Absolute chaos erupted. The Nova director screamed for the tankers to hold the line, but it was already too late. They were slaughtered before the order even reached their ears. Ding. Hero-level player eliminated. 5 absolute evil points acquired. A system notification explained the reward. These points could purge unreasonable elements from his body. Han didn't fully understand yet, but he stored the information for later. Meanwhile, at Nova headquarters, all hell broke loose. The directors scrambled in panic as live footage of the massacre hit the internet. Their private hunting grounds had been breached, and now the entire world had a front-row seat to the dismantling of Nova. They frantically tried to scrub the servers and bury the evidence. But the truth was out. The damage was irreversible. Back on the blood-soaked field, Si-Song unleashed the undead upon their former comrades. The Nova director watched in absolute horror. His own fallen soldiers rose from the gory mud, weapons raised against their living brothers. His spirit shattered completely. Si-Song's voice cut through the noise, cold as the grave. "Accept your fate." Screams echoed across the battlefield as Nova's forces were ground into dust. Han moved like a reaper, steady and relentless. Ding! He looted a rare redstone package, an item once owned by the legendary Blazing Horde. For the first time, S-tier drops were finally landing in his hands. Curious, Han decided to test his new currency. He spent one absolute evil point to purge the curse on his luck stat. The stat, buried deep in the negatives, flipped positive in the blink of an eye. And just like that, his strength attribute hit the maximum limit. A small, satisfied smirk played on his lips. Rufendal shouted to the crew, ordering them to vacuum up every single item on the field. Bring it all to the boss. Han wondered if these points could break the limits of his other stats too, but his thoughts were interrupted. Emergency. The next wave had arrived. These weren't just grunts. It was the big guns, the 3 swords of Nova. The elite trio stepped onto the battlefield, radiating killing intent. One locked eyes with Han, recognizing the aura of Ramtadian, and issued a final warning. Surrender now and submit to an investigation. Do that, and maybe we won't erase your existence. Han ignored the threat, demanding intel. Rufendal didn't sugarcoat the danger. On the left is Curdle, he explained, voice trembling slightly. A chaotic, close-range brawler who clawed his way up from a hidden class. Han glanced at the thug. He doesn't exactly scream lethal threat. On the right waits the assassin. Another hidden class fighter, mastering the deadly blader style. And front and center stands Rufus, the ultimate defense expert. Han recalled rumors of Rufendal's obsession with shields. Magic walls and ironclad defenses. Han wondered if this was the man Rufendal secretly idolized. Rufus threw down the gauntlet. Surrender quietly, and you might survive. Han sniffed the air. It smelled like pure bullshit. Their entire vibe screamed summary execution. Han remained stone-faced. Rufus's patience snapped. Answer now, or die. The battle was inevitable. Han noticed a critical flaw. No healer, no priest. Was it a bold strategy, or just sheer, blinding arrogance? Curdle charged first. He smirked, thinking Han's lack of gear made him soft. Han caught the strike with his bare hands. The shock on their faces was absolutely priceless. Even Curdle had to admit, this rookie was faster and stronger than the data suggested. But that realization came too late. A fist connected with his jaw, sending him flying across the zone. Rufus froze. The intelligence reports were laughably wrong. Curdle survived the hit, which Han grudgingly accepted as proof they weren't total trash. Han shouted, "Rufendal, keep that camera rolling." Rufus, realizing force might fail, switched tactics to bribery. He offered full hunting rights and canceled the kill order. 100 million won a year, full access to Nova's rifts and exclusive zones, official recruitment and the backing of the bosses. Han didn't even blink. He shot the offer down in flames. He tore into Nova's monopoly and their control over the weak. He wasn't here to join their corrupt system. He was here to burn it to the ground. He threw their arrogance back in their faces. Would you be offering me this deal if I were just some average scrub? The stream chat exploded with messages as the world watched the declaration of war. The onlookers mocked Nova's desperate scrambling, while others racked their brains trying to decode Han's strategy. But Han scoffed at the display, dismissing it all as pathetic bargaining. Diplomacy was officially dead in the water. Nova's crew declared the negotiations failed and launched a full-scale ambush. Han's answer was silence and steel. True white slash. A single, flawless strike cleaved Curdle in two. The assassin realized instantly that a head-on clash meant certain death. He shifted targets, locking onto Si-Song, assuming the undead user was a soft target. He banked on the classic necromancer weakness, terrible close-quarters combat. He vanished into stealth, closing in for a swift execution. But before his dagger could even taste the air, a shadow intercepted him. Johann materialized from the void, cutting him down before he could blink. The assassin's consciousness faded in sheer disbelief, slain by a ghost he never even sensed. The entire Nova squad froze in terror. That assassin was a top-tier calamity, yet he fell like a common mob. Whispers rippled through the ranks like a virus. That swordsman belongs to the Black Flora group. Confusion fermented into dread, and dread exploded into panic. Someone muttered the forbidden truth. The children of Murdervale had entered the game. Even a rumor of the Murdervale's leader sent their nerves spiraling into madness. Rufin watched his elite forces crumble, his mind unable to process the shock. The murder veil? Here? That monster never reveals his face. What kind of beast is Han to command the loyalty of the Max Chaotic? But before he could make sense of the nightmare, the advent of Diva descended. Zeta crashed onto the battlefield with a bloodthirsty decree. All enemies of the Master shall perish. Without waiting for a command, he charged into the fray like a berserker. Johann bowed, apologizing for acting out of turn, but Han waved it off. The pest was dead, and that was all that mattered. Rufin, stripped of his pride and desperate to survive, begged for another round of talks. He confessed to insulting Han with that lowball offer of 100 million. He swore to give Han the royal treatment if he joined Nova. Han just laughed in his face and attacked. He didn't need their scraps. 4 consecutive strikes battered Rufin's defenses. He collapsed, disbelief etched onto his dying face. Han snatched a pouch from the corpse. Instantly, 200,000 gold richer. These Nova guys were walking treasuries. Meanwhile, Rufendal scrambled like a madman, vacuuming up every drop of loot before any outsiders could intervene. Sisong watched the carnage, stunned. "Are Johann and Zeta part of your crew?" Han nodded. They were the elders of the Sky Devil. Rufendal puffed out his chest, announcing he had already scooped up every last item. He offered the mountain of loot to Han, insisting on protocol. A king shouldn't have to bend his back to pick up trash. Johann and Zeta stared at Rufendal as if he were a tactical genius. For that level of sycophantic loyalty, Han couldn't help but wonder just how much wealth the little guy had squirreled away. Suddenly, an urgent voice pierced the air. Coco's warning was sharp. "Everyone, hit the ground. Now." Rufendal and Sisong were ordered to take flight immediately. Johann and Zeta braced for impact, weapons drawn. Sisong demanded answers, but Han was grim. He didn't know what it was. He only knew one thing. A calamity was approaching. A colossal shadow swallowed the land, and the system screamed a chilling alert. New quest initiated, Boss Master Raid. The system confirmed the worst. Absolute evil had descended, triggered by a fusion of chaotic energies. The monster field warped under the strange conditions. Titan-class bosses breached the surface. A grotesque chimera with elongated rabbit ears towered over them. Beside it, a construct shaped like a distorted water cannon, and a hulking beast with 2 snarling heads. A fresh raid window flashed ominously. Boss Monster Raid. Han gazed up at the behemoths, impressed by their sheer scale but annoyed by their audacity. Zeta analyzed the threats and his face darkened. This fight might be suicide, even for high rankers, especially considering Han's current limitations. His suggestion? Retreat. Johann, fearing for his liege's safety, agreed. But Han shut them down with a cold glare. He wasn't backing away 1 inch. He asked if they doubted him. Their silence was the only answer he needed. "Then watch me," he commanded. "Ready to move," the system chimed in again. These bosses hadn't spawned at random. They were a specific reaction to the arrival of absolute evil. Han understood the truth instantly. These weren't just monsters. They were designed for this moment, created under conditions that only he could shatter. The heaven-shattering ghosts roared to life, his aura meshing perfectly with the absolute evil's power. When he stepped forward, the bosses didn't even twitch. They were locked in place, frozen by a superior predator. Crushed under the suffocating pressure pouring off him, confident, Han walked straight into the jaws of death. Zeta and Johann could only watch. Their faces were illuminated by pure awe. A notification followed. Hidden piece fragment completed. Because of the anomaly surrounding these monsters, the absolute evil was now in perfect synchronization with them. He held the absolute advantage. The colossal bosses shivered under his energy, knowing that death had arrived. Zeta, who had admired Han for trashing the Nova invaders, was blown away. The man had become insanely strong in the blink of an eye. Johann, shaken to his core, whispered the truth. He is no longer the man we knew. Another system alert rolled in. Han had cleared the hidden requirements. Hidden skin unlocked. In a flash, the boss monsters vanished into thin air, defeated without a single blow thrown. Meanwhile, high in the glass towers of Nova Alien HQ, a tense meeting was underway. Sensors screamed as a massive skill surge was detected. Jung-hoon reported with a trembling voice, "The Max Chaotic player has made it across the sky." When pressed for the gritty details, Jung-hoon drops the bombshell, confirming the target is merely level 50. A wave of cold terror washes over the executives as Nova's reputation takes a critical blow, even their golden prodigies. The legendary 3 swords failed to hold their ground against a single irregular player, and now the trio stands there, with heads bowed in shame, mumbling pathetic apologies. But the higher-ups know the failure isn't entirely on them. This player's power level defies all logic, and the leadership is furious at the intelligence failure if they had known his true potential. Nova could have secured a contract before hell broke loose, but that golden opportunity has dissolved into ash. This max chaotic entity isn't just powerful, he is shattering the laws of the system itself, dominating headlines at level 50. His existence has become a beacon that governments can no longer ignore. Even the US Justice Alliance has begun sniffing around, plotting how to weaponize him for their own agenda. But Nova's official decree is clear: a chaotic anomaly like this cannot be allowed to exist in their structured society. The danger is escalating now that he has gathered allies. Kang analyzes the data, and a terrifying pattern emerges, pointing to one chilling conclusion: he is the embodiment of absolute evil. Kang declares that every action the player has taken aligns with this dark destiny. Turning to his grandson, Musok, he reveals his master plan: a future where the elite ruling class never has to bleed to keep the system running. This player will be branded as a villain. Kang intends to manipulate the media and twist public perception until the entire world sees a monster. But in the shadows, they will keep a secret option open if this beast of a player can be tamed or bought. Nova will not hesitate to recruit him, because raw strength is the only currency that matters. Meanwhile, on the battlefield, Han unleashes a devastating assault, his fists colliding with the monstrous elephant as his deadly fist skill erupts with kinetic force. Kang's voice seems to echo in the boardroom, declaring that before any negotiation, this player must be driven to the edge. No matter his individual might, he is still just one man, and Nova intends to teach him a harsh lesson: that no lone wolf, no matter how legendary, can survive the crushing weight of an empire. But Han is unstoppable, ending the battle with a single earth-shattering blow. As he lunges, the system's cold, mechanical voice announces the two-headed chimera is dead. The creature's massive frame collapses into dust, marking the end of the raid as the system declares victory. And begins the distribution of spoils. History itself seems to tremble as Han reflects on the battle, calling it an overwhelming victory. The risk of gathering absolute evil energy was worth it. A new reward window flashes, granting gold a level up and 0.3 absolute evil points. He furrows his brow in mild disappointment, questioning if this meager payout is all he gets for a boss kill. Surely a few monster stones should be part of the deal. As if answering his greed, the system deposits 3 pitch-black stones into his inventory, leaving Han stunned. Johann and Zeta cry out his name in shock, while Han whispers to himself, questioning reality as the system explains that among all magical catalysts, black stones reign supreme. In the 2 centuries since Olympus went online, they have appeared only 3 times. The rarity is beyond comprehension, and as Han stares at the treasures, memories flood back, and a wicked grin spreads across his face. Johann whispers that their liege looks suspiciously happy, while Zeta assumes it is the lingering thrill of combat and the rush of power. But Johann shakes his head, sensing a deeper scheme. Just then, an unexpected guest materializes. The Master of the Justice Alliance descends, offering a polite greeting and feigning relief that he arrived in time. Suddenly, Ellen, the director of Blue Heart, steps from the shadows, her voice slicing through the air, ordering everyone to freeze. Han instinctively recoils as the captain closes the distance, his mind racing to understand when this alien presence slipped past his defenses. The Alliance head stands firm, locking eyes with Han, while his subordinates Han and Zeta tactically shift to the flank. As Johann guides the strange entities forward, he demands to know their intentions, and the newcomers reveal their identities. Ellen steps into the light, declaring her rank, and the Alliance head confirms she is a key player in their coalition. Ellen turns to Han. She wastes no time cutting straight to business, offering a recruitment package with a signing bonus and a 300 million won yearly salary, along with an exclusive gear set, access to Blue Heart, hunting zones, black maps, and complete operational support. Ellen demands his answer, but the Justice Alliance captain immediately interrupts with a superior counteroffer: a 300 million won signing bonus, and a 500 million won annual salary, plus a set of rare-grade items. Han remains silent, analyzing the situation. They emphasize that a freelancer like him cannot survive long without the shielding of the great alien factions. Ellen adds a veiled threat, warning that if he rejects their protection, his access to trade networks on the Korean peninsula could be completely severed. Han acknowledges their threats, but internally, he scoffs because he has his own methods to rule the market. Their proposals were insults wrapped in paper. To demonstrate the gap in their reality, he unleashed a fraction of his aura. 3 concealed abominations materialized from the void. Bloodlust dripped from their fangs, ready to slaughter. But in a fraction of a second, they were obliterated. The loot was already in his inventory before their bodies hit the floor. Gazing at the high-grade spoils, Han realized a harsh truth. 500 million won? That amount wasn't even worth a flicker of his attention. With his current specs, he could farm that much before breakfast without breaking a sweat. Ellen sat in stunned silence, a cold sweat trickling down her spine. The footage she studied was a joke compared to this reality. His power was a towering mountain. To a being like him, their fortune was nothing but pocket lint. Han's voice was cold steel. Not interested. Ellen froze. Masking her shock, she bowed with stiff formality to excuse herself. But the captain of the Justice Alliance stepped forward, cutting through the tension. Apologies. There seems to be a misunderstanding regarding the record. We did not offer 500 million won. We offered $500 million. Han's mind ground to a halt. The sheer weight of that number crashed into him. He had assumed the wrong currency. He thought they were speaking in local pocket change. Suddenly, the scale of the deal expanded to a monumental level. He turned a sharp gaze to Ellen. Did your side adjust the currency too? Defeated. She confirmed it was still Korean won. The justice head tilted his head in mock confusion, wondering if they had overestimated the competition. The contrast was laughable. Blue Heart sent a mere director with 300 million won, while Justice deployed both their captain and head, armed with a war chest of $500 million. The head shot a pitying glance at Ellen. Does your offer truly amount to a measly $300,000? For a hunter of Han's legendary caliber, 300 million won wasn't just a lowball. It was a slap in the face. He prayed Han wouldn't take offense to the industry's ignorance. He bowed low. Justice respects your worth, regardless of your choice. But if the winds of fate change, our doors are open. Han smirked, acknowledging the respect. If I ever decide to sign a contract, Justice will be the first name on the paper. Ellen stood there, her mind reeling. The gap between them was an abyss she couldn't cross. She knew Justice had deep pockets, but this was God-tier spending. Han caught her staring into the void. He snapped her back to reality. Something on your mind? She flinched, quickly bowing in apology. If our business is concluded, I will take my leave. Han didn't bother to stop her. As she retreated, her professional mask cracked, annoyance etched deep into her features. Internally, she was screaming curses at him. That cocky brat, he doesn't know his place in the food chain. Her comms pinged. Status update requested. She hissed into the mic. He is exactly the arrogant trash we feared, just as the intel warned. The voice on the other end sneered in agreement. Trash needs to be taken out. The connection severed. Ellen analyzed the next move. Upper management wouldn't take this lying down. They would force him to his knees, make him realize the world is too heavy to carry alone. But first, the mission. Retrieve the pouch immediately. It is critical. Ellen confirmed the directive. The shadow brokers pondered the situation. Han had successfully painted another target on his back. What was his endgame? They were flying blind. However, the tides were turning. If Ellen secured that pouch, the balance of power would shift violently. Back in the present, Han's mind revolved around the black stone, how to unlock its catastrophic potential, how to burn its existence into the memory of the world. His phone vibrated. Unknown caller, he answered. A familiar melody of a voice drifted through. It was C Song. Han's eyes narrowed in surprise. He had never given her his private line. A soft, chiming laugh echoed from the speaker. She confirmed her identity playfully. Do you have a moment? I am with Seiya. We were hoping for a quick meetup at the cafe. Han entered the establishment. He instantly spotted Sisong and Seiya. Their presence demanded attention. Seiya wasted zero time. She proudly confessed to orchestrating this gathering. I gave her your number. I thought it was destiny for you two to connect. At least once. She leaned in with a mischievous grin. Besides, look how stunning Sisong is in person. Well, thoughts? Han remained stone-faced. She shot him a pointed glare. Why the silent treatment? Cat got your tongue? Han's irritation spiked like a sudden fever. His words sliced through the air. I am not here for games. I have zero interest in offline social clubs. Truthfully, leaving his sanctuary was a hassle. He had only materialized here for one reason: to deliver a final warning. The situation is volatile. Every loose word outside the game is a breadcrumb for our enemies. Information is a weapon, and you are handing it out. Watch your backs. He leaned in, eyes intense. One careless move could trigger a chain reaction of fatal assumptions. He doubled down, his aura heavy. Be smart about your aliases. In the virtual world and the real one, names have power. Check your speech patterns, mask your habits. He turned his cold gaze toward Sisong. His tone hardened into diamond. Never share your handle with a soul. And your class? Bury that secret deep. Do not breathe a word of it. Sisong hesitated, intimidated by his intensity. He repeated the command, enunciating every syllable. She finally lowered her head. Understood, she murmured. Seiya sat stunned by his jagged edge. Why are you acting like the apocalypse is here? Nothing has even gone wrong yet. He shot back instantly. Do you think your home protects you from consequences? His glare could cut glass. Now tell me, whose brilliant idea was it to leak my private contact? Seiya stammered, shrinking back. I just thought since we're partners. Han slashed his hand through the air, cutting her off. He shot down her excuse like a clay pigeon, hammering the warning into her skull one last time. Make no mistake, do not mess this up. With a cold finality, he declares he has pressing business and walks out of the cafe without looking back. As his silhouette fades, Saya mutters under her breath, completely baffled. Who does he think he is? Why would anyone even give us the time of day? Shaking her head, she turns to Si-song with an awkward shrug. Sorry about that. Han isn't usually this intense. But Si-song remains silent, lost in thought. She is replaying the first time she ever laid eyes on him, trying to decode the enigma that is Han. There has always been an aura about him. A silent, unshakable mountain of stability that makes her feel inexplicably safe. Whenever disaster strikes, he is there, a silent guardian in the chaos. That quiet strength is exactly why she wanted to meet him in the flesh. She just wanted to say thank you. She recalls Saya's teasing words, claiming Han's jaw would drop if he ever saw her beauty. Now, that comment feels like a bad joke. Does he truly possess a heart of stone? Does her appearance mean absolutely nothing to him? The question lingers in her mind like a shadow. Meanwhile, back in the virtual realm, Rufundal approaches them during the expedition. He hands Han a heavy bundle of gear. Han ruffles the kid's hair with a brotherly pat, but Rufundal shakes his head. He refuses any reward. Just learning from the master is payment enough. Han suppresses a devious smirk. If this kid knew Han was hoarding the legendary black stones, the poor boy would probably faint from shock. Suddenly, the system pings. Han notices a new item resting in his inventory, a video stone. It must have dropped when he looted Ellen's pouch earlier. A notification flashes before his eyes. The encrypted data is now unlocked. Han activates the interface, scrolling through the hidden files. His brow furrows. The footage reveals chaos, rap battle scenes, secret hunting grounds, and classified documents regarding exclusive rights, illegal kickbacks, and dirty deals. As Han connects the dots, the truth strikes him like a lightning bolt. This is the reason. This is why Ellen offered him over $1 billion to take the fall. It all makes sense now. Suddenly, Johan appears, calling out his name. Han responds, and Johan shares critical intel. He speaks of a secret warp portal hidden deep within the frozen north of the Korganis Mountains. Located on the Runia continent, it is under the iron grip of Ellen's alien faction. A corrupt captain stationed there has been acting like a tyrant, exploiting his power for personal greed. Johan reveals he has already issued a kill order the moment that Captain leaves the safe zone. He is a dead man walking. Meanwhile, Han stares at the video stone, a wicked idea forming in his mind. This is not just evidence, it is ammunition. Used correctly, this could be a nuclear weapon against the alien guild. Elsewhere, Byung-un monitors the public sentiment board. The comments are savage, mocking Ramtadian for acting like royalty with zero background. Just because he got lucky with some power, he thinks he is a king? Byung-un's face twists with cold elitist disdain. His eyes dart to the massive monitor. Breaking news flashes in red. The identity of the absolute evil has finally been confirmed. He grudgingly admits it. Han's combat prowess is monstrous. A literal one-man army. But raw strength isn't everything. Why would Han provoke Mosaic and declare war on the entire world? From Byung-un's perspective, it is pure suicide. Embracing the title of absolute evil is burning every bridge he has. He hasn't just enraged Mosaic, he has crossed Ellen's alien faction as well. There is no universe where they sit back and let this slide. Once the top rankers make their move, the rest of the server will follow like sheep. Byung-un pushes back from his desk. His expression darkens. Brute force has limits. Eventually, Han will need to travel between continents. That requires warp portals. If they cut off his access, he is trapped. And if the alien guilds interfere, they can blacklist him from the auction house. He will be nothing more than a broke wanderer. But just as that thought settles, a notification screams on the Olympus Mania board. A new headline dominates the screen. A legendary black stone has appeared. Byung-un narrows his eyes, his brain racing. If Han actually possesses an item of that caliber, the game just became infinitely more chaotic and dangerous than he ever imagined. The rumor spreads like wildfire. Electricity runs through the player base. The black stone is back. Sources trace the signal directly to the Korean server. The entire world loses its collective mind. The speculation on the auction price is skyrocketing. This isn't just news. It is a digital earthquake. The mere presence of the black stone rattles the markets and the media down to their very bones. News directors scream for instant coverage. They swear to be the first on the scene, no matter the cost. Inside the Alliance leader's office, the air is sharp enough to cut skin. A subordinate rushes in with a report. The black stone's owner isn't selling. The refusal is blunt. And the reason? It is borderline petty. It's that same lunatic, Max Chaotic, and he simply hates the Nova Guild. The leader's expression turns pitch black. A player who is both powerful and completely irrational now holds the Joker card. The table has been flipped. Back in the game, Sia fumes in silence. She scrolls through endless articles, watching the world trash her brother's name. The math refused to balance in her mind. Every article dripped with venom and warped lies. Her blood didn't just boil, it burned with injustice. Any fragment of public favor had evaporated. Yet, our protagonist scanned his own obituary with eyes like a frozen lake. He had sensed this storm approaching from leagues away. Trembling with fury, Sia struck a nearby tree, shaking the very earth. He watched her outburst in silence. Merely noting that such rage was a waste of precious energy, she snapped back, her voice fracturing under the weight of exhaustion. She vowed to drag every lying scribe to judgment. Standing like a shadow, Sisong clenched his fists in silent agreement. She could not reconcile the man before her with the demon painted by the press. Han received her defense without a word. Had he ever truly earned such blind loyalty? He wondered for a fleeting second. But, in the grand scheme, such sentiments were irrelevant. With Nova and Ellen marking him for death, character assassination was inevitable. This media bombardment was simply the price of war. The court of public opinion meant nothing to him now. He held the ultimate trump card, the Blackstone, and it was going to the highest bidder. No matter what they offered, they would never seize it by force. The day of destiny arrived. Shadows gathered within the ruins of the Centennial Continent's Colosseum. Outside, the air hummed with agitation. Every warp gate controlled by Nova and Eileen had crumbled into dust, a desperate gambit to trap the Blackstone within their domain. But Han was 3 steps ahead, orchestrating moves with Searchin. They revealed the coordinates only 3 minutes before the start, a masterstroke to render last-minute sabotage impossible. Flanked by Johan, Zeta, and Lexo, he reviewed the mental blueprint. Searchin's strategy was a fortress without cracks. Even the most tyrannical demands were obeyed instantly. Fear of expulsion outweighed their pride. Security was absolute. Every warrior was stripped of their steel at the gates. Only a phantom guard remained within. Neutral elders watched with hawk-like eyes. While the murder wheels circled the arena, a grim promise of death. The law was simple and brutal. Spark violence and face immediate execution. The blacklist flashed for all to see, a deliberate slap in the face. Humiliated and seething, the banned clans would surely seek blood. As the rules thundered across the arena, the atmosphere tightened like a bowstring. The crowd held its breath as our protagonist took the stage. His greeting was ice-cold yet polite. He offered a token apology for the security, then opened the floor. Currency was gold alone. No starting price. The value would be decided by their greed. Before the echo faded, a voice roared. 600 billion. The numbers skyrocketed instantly. 700, 750, 800 billion, 860 billion. The bidding war had lost its brakes. In his mind, the count crossed the legendary threshold. 1 trillion, then 2 trillion. It was terrifying how such a small object could shake the world's economy. Then, the heavens split open. 30 trillion gold. The arena fell into a deathly silence. It was Randall, the tyrant of wealth from the Faria continent. A recluse of the Middle Eastern server, who rarely descended from his throne. His mere presence was heavy, but another challenger stepped up. 31 trillion. A bid made of sheer, stubborn pride. Randall didn't even blink. 50 trillion gold. His smile was the definition of absolute dominance. Watching from the shadows, Searchin was convinced. The hammer was about to fall. A historic close seemed inevitable. But Han did not signal the end. He demanded more, his eyes sweeping the crowd like a radar. Searchin narrowed his gaze. The moment had arrived. Time for the rats to scurry from the dark. Suddenly, chaos erupted. A fanatic screamed, shattering the tension. Absolute evil has come to harvest your souls. Laughing maniacally, he raised a bomb. Our hero spun around instantly. Nova's dogs. The lunatic shrieked that this destruction was an offering to his dark god. As the explosive left his hand, Han recalled the prophecy. The pastor's strategy was pure entropy. Their goal, to strangle the flow of warriors. Warp points defiled with cursed sigils. A total blockade, and when that failed, they resorted to terror. Suicide blasts, designed to breed hysteria, to paint this auction as a cultist bloodbath. A laughable tactic. Yet, the prediction was terrifyingly accurate. Johan. As panic spread, the assassin moved. Faster than fear itself, he materialized behind the zealot. He neutralized the threat before a single life was lost. His killing aura cut through the confusion like a guillotine. It was chilling. The enemy danced exactly to Searchin's tune, down to their final desperate breath. Their sabotage was precise, but it was not unforeseen. And now, the true war begins.